All right, welcome back to the channel, everybody. So we didn't do a live stream yesterday. I was having a little bit of technical difficulties, but it really didn't matter because yesterday amounted to a whole lot of nothing. In fact, that's basically what we've done all week. We opened this week up with a lot of volatility, seeing a nasty decline on Sunday evening, put in a nasty down day on Monday, and have gone literally nowhere since. So basically we're trading inside of Monday's candle. It's getting a little bit ridiculous here. Yeah, I mean, oh, sorry, we did see that volatility continue into Tuesday. There are a couple other assets that I'm looking at that we're still trading range bound. ZEC being one of them. This is basically the Sunday. Here's your weekly open. So you can see you've literally been wedging up all week. And the same goes for Fartcoin, same scenario. Weekly open, been wedging up all week. So Bitcoin did have a little bit of follow through to the downside on Tuesday, but we've gone nowhere since then. Trading inside Wednesday, Thursday, and so far today, you're trading inside yesterday's range. So it's a little bit skeptical to say we should probably be on the sell side as far as technicals go. If you're a technical trader only, if you set your algos to fire off orders based on technical signals, then you are a seller down here. If we go look at the 4-hour time frame, you can see you haven't done anything for a while. Let's see, the last down trending candle that you got was on Tuesday afternoon. So a couple hours, about, what's that, 5 o'clock? 3 o'clock, sorry. So 3 o'clock was the last downside candle you got. Since then, you've done nothing. We did have a nasty looking move down here that came on some news. And then basically that news was literally rejected. It's been, I guess you could say, like all the world central banks and everything are over in Switzerland doing the whole Davos thing. So that news coming out of that has basically caused price to be very wishy-washy this week, not really doing anything, not really getting any continuation to the upside or the downside. We did see a little bit of volumes yesterday, but once again, here we are. So the only real signal that you have here right now, we've got a good cool 25 minutes for the bell. Like I said, you're under the 50 here on the 4 hours, so that would be a sell signal. You're under the 50 on the daily. You're under the daily 21. You're also pretty much under like all of the other things that we look at. You're under the weekly VWAP. You're under the monthly VWAP. You've lost the daily 21 up there. You're under December's open. You're under the trend line. There is a trend line down here that we did not want to see. It broke. You have broken that. So of course people are going to be putting on shorts here. To me, it got a little bit oversold, but it hasn't gone down lately. So it's a little bit curious to look for a sell here when you're just right above oversold. However, the thing is if you get another nasty leg lower, you could hit oversold again and be way down in here. So there is potential for short side entries here. If you are, or if you do have a short side bias, you're probably going to be watching the prior 4-hour swing high. Your daily high is up here around last week's low. That's what LWL stands for, last week's low. So that's currently going to be your resistance. But if you're looking for shorts like right here, right now, well then you're going to be watching either the prior open or the prior high. Those are the only really two areas you could look for a short side setup. You would be anticipating a breakdown here coming at the open. What have we done weekly on volatility. Up here, top left, you can see that we had a nasty explosion on the VIX, getting all the way up into $21 area, setting the high, and then rolling over, dropping back under the 2025 yearly opening range. But if we look at this on the weekly, more importantly, you'll see that you retested last week's close. Now, last week's close was a higher close than the prior week, so it did look like the VIX was going to explode. We did get that explosion correct. Now the question is it going to go up again, or has the VIX been sold off? Is volatility done? Well, we don't know. All the positioning still looks like, they're looking for a higher move, but it's kind of curious to me that it sold off so aggressively the last 3 days and Bitcoin has gone nowhere. So S&P 500 had a nice response off of that VIX getting sold off. It got back above the yearly open, and here you are holding above the yearly open as support. So S&P looks good for a potential upside move. Yesterday, your low in the futures and cash market is right here. So today we're going to be gapping down to about yesterday's low. So if it's going to be a nasty sell side day, then you need to see the S&P lose 68.93 and give you an expansion in that direction. If the S&P stays choppy here at 68.93, it makes me feel as if though it wants to head to the upside. Bitcoin is struggling to get any kind of upside run right now because all eyes are on gold and silver. A couple weeks ago, I made the statement on the live stream that if silver gets above 90, then silver will most likely hit 100. And that's just a saying that older traders used to say a lot with stocks, not necessarily commodities, but with stocks. If the stock can trade at $90 a share, it's probably going to 100. Well, we literally are sitting at 99.65 right now on silver. So all eyes are on gold and silver. And as long as gold and silver continue this absolute historic run that they've been on for the last, 2 years, last year, very beginning of this year, it's people are going to be trading that. And there is a correlation to make, or an inverse correlation here, where, if gold is rising, then Bitcoin isn't. And we'll look at some of those charts later on today. But as of right now, I think we need to be getting positioned. But anyways, here you are right now tagging 99.64. This is also a 100% expansion from last month's range. So basically, this month's candle is exactly 100% the size of last month's candle. So basically, if you take a fib extension tool from last month's low to last month's high, and then down to this month's low, you'll see that you are literally at the 1, which is just 100%. So the extension is 100% the size of the prior month. So we are probably getting close to a near-term top, but while it's in the middle of a short squeeze, I wouldn't try to pick that top. I would allow that top to be picked, then look for the pullback and look for support, because the short squeeze is still unfolding here. It's insane. It literally is. So, $100 silver, we're almost there. And then if you look at gold, it is also just squeezing shorts. People are trying to short right now, and they shouldn't be. You got massive bids in gold right now because of China. So China is buying up a lot of gold, preparing for a wartime economy, and that's making all the other central banks around the world do the same thing. So literally all central banks are stacking gold right now because the US can't let China gold reserves to eclipse their gold reserves. And you can see this happening where gold is just literally on fire compared to fiat, compared to Bitcoin, compared to literally anything. If you compare the gold's rise even to the S&P 500. Like, gold is on a tear here, and it's a legit tear that is being forced by central bank purchasing and other investors just on for the ride. So yeah, I don't know where the high is going to be. When you're at all-time highs, it's almost a futile it's almost futile to try to take part in picking that high before you get it. So I would just let it chill. And obviously with gold ripping like this, it makes it a little bit problematic for me to get super bullish Bitcoin here, especially since we lost December's high. And as of right now, we've lost December's open. So it doesn't look very bullish or structured like it's bullish. But the simple fact that here's your yearly opening, and almost not every single time, but there are, I went back historical data and checked, there are only a couple of times where when Bitcoin opened up and moved up at the beginning of the year, whenever it came back to retest that yearly opening range, as long as there wasn't any, overwhelmingly bearish macro event taking place, if it was just normal market volatility, then that has historically been a buying opportunity. Now, with that being said, structurally, technically, Bitcoin is bearish. So I'm not going to tell you to be a buyer down here for the trade. For the long-term buy, I think it's a buy, but for just like today, a scalp today, it's more structurally a sell. If we look at volume is very, very neutral, or at least the deltas here. They started out on the day open as positive, but the sellers have since knocked price down, taking deltas back to under neutral, which does signify that your sellers, or at least your market sellers, are trying to force prices lower. They're just looking for the setup, right? They think the 4-year cycle model is going to play out, so they want to get positioned on the sell. I honestly thought that position would have been the best position earlier on in the week. However, the sellers have not been able to get Bitcoin to fall, and there's a reason for that, obviously, right? If there was that much fear in the market, then Bitcoin would be tearing ass to the downside. If we go look at our long-term holders chart just to see what's going on over here, not only is it not going down, it's literally going up. So long-term holders are no longer selling. You do not have a V bottom here, but you have a more rounding bottom. So this downside move could be chalked up to just press headline. I don't know if you're going to see a big downside move on Bitcoin. It seems like it wants to bounce, but it's definitely struggling to do that. So I had a really good week at the very beginning of the week because we had a really good downside move, and I was positioned short on the likes of Farcoin and Zcash and stuff like that. So made a lot of money at the very beginning of the week. Haven't done anything. In fact, have lost a little bit. Not, obviously I'm still way in the green, but I mean, the last several trades that I put on have all been stopped out because we have this inability to get any kind of continuation. Whether you've been a bull this week or a bear this week, you've been stopped out. So positioning here in the middle of this range is going to be difficult. It is. It's just the way it is whenever you're trading as an inside day. And coming into the New York session, you don't really have any like serious order flow to go on because today's an inside day and yesterday was an inside day. So it's literally just choppy. Be careful out there if you're looking for positions. The week is ending today, so we may see a move, but in the direction of which I couldn't tell you. The VIX is back down at 15. It's actually trading at 1610 right now. Historically, anything over 15 is elevated. So you could make the argument that the VIX is still elevated today. And because gold and silver are both moving up thanks to dollar weakness, you could have a bearish bias on Bitcoin. like I said, looking for entries, going to be difficult. You have yesterday's close, which would be today's open. You could look for entries there, or look for entries up at around yesterday's high. That is if you're looking for the daily range expansion. The problem is we're already in the middle of that. So you would have to go down in time on a smaller time frame and look for entries that aren't that great, right? Just not that great. So your daily open is right here. That means looking for bearish entries at about 89,465 would be pretty good if Bitcoin fails to trade above this price right here. That isn't the day open, I understand that, but that wick right there is basically how I would mitigate my risk if I had a bearish bias today. So essentially, the way I would want to be positioned for the short, I would definitely want to see those sellers defending that lower high. I don't want to see higher highs and higher lows on an intraday basis when I'm looking to scalp a short trade, looking for downside continuation. Right now you do have a lower low on the day. This is the day range. You opened up the day, you set the day high, you made a higher high, then you came down and you made a lower low. So at least on the near term, you could use that as your basis for the short, right? That simple fact. We took out the day high and then immediately reversed, went down, made a fresh day low. Typically speaking, that is bearish, but when the ranges are this tight, it's not that big of a move, right? So yeah, it's going to be one of those days. So here's what I have on right now. I have a short on XMR and on Zcash. So here's how I'm going to play the day. As I have not been stopped out of these trades yet, so I'm going to leave these trades just like this. I am long Fartcoin at the prior 4-hour swing low. I may live to regret that decision here in just a few minutes when the bell opens and Fartcoin goes down and makes a fresh day low. Yeah, it would be a fresh day low. So yeah, that would suck. But that's what I'm looking at here. And then I have shorts on Zcash. Once again, very range bound, very choppy. So in a sense, I'm just looking at this to kind of hold here. If it does, then this is actually your day open on Zcash. So the fact that this 4-hour candle did take out this high but rejected and closed under the open, that means I would love to see that continue. So that's why my entry is there at or just a little above the day open. And then obviously the short on XMR, which is up at around 4-hour res. And I took that when it traded up here on this candle. As it traded up into 4-hour res, I just jumped on the short there. Structure here, still bearish, right? You're still closing 4-hour candles under the 21 EMA. You're still under the 50. If we go look at this on a daily time frame, same thing. We're under the daily 21. We lost it here. We've been retesting it for days. So the fact that the buyers could not reclaim it yesterday is what's causing the short for me here today. So I am anticipating this move might have some continuation today. But none of these trades have worked out this week. None of them. So I wouldn't be surprised if I get stopped out of all 3 of these trades today and we wrap the stream up like that. It can happen, right? Yeah, kind of sucks. Had a huge cushion this week, and I lost about almost close to $500 of that money that I made over the weekend just trying to get positioned for continuation. As traders, that's what we need to make money. Now, there was a short that I was in yesterday that did get close to hitting take profit on XMR, but it didn't hit my take profit. I had my take profit set and everything where I would have made back $300 of that money, but unfortunately, it didn't hit my take profit. I quit looking at the charts. It was late day, so I wasn't even looking at the charts. I got an email, looked at my phone, and of course, my stop loss was hit. That's always disheartening, but there's nothing we can do about it. We can't predict price. So yeah, instead of getting out and making less than 300, I could have made like 275 or 250, but it didn't play out that way. So here we are, a little bit more on the aggravated side this morning, but that's generally the way it is when markets are sideways. Everybody gets annoyed, everybody gets bored because nothing you do seems to work. But I sort of have a bullish bias down here on Bitcoin because of the year open stuff, right? Now, if the EU wants to continue, I mean, Donald Trump was threatening tariffs. That's what sparked, 10% tariffs on the EU based on the whole Greenland thing. And then he goes to Davos and gets a deal. So, and the market's like that, but there really hasn't been anything else to come from that. As far as I'm aware, he hasn't said anything other than that we have a deal. The specifics to that deal have not been shared publicly yet, and I think that's kind of what's going on here. So the market really took that news really good, bouncing firm off the yearly opening range. And when that deal is made public, then if the market sees that it's a good deal, we may see Bitcoin take off back to the upside, as the fear that started the sell-off has been basically, walked back. So we'll see. We'll see. I could be wrong. I am not a macro analyst. I am a price analyst. So my macro stuff, just take that with a grain of salt, because I'm not very great at analyzing the macro. All right, so yeah, but as far as price action goes, Bitcoin is bearish here. It is weak. It is under the weekly VWAP. It's under the monthly VWAP. You lost the breakout spot, which was December's high. Like, I could go on and go on and on and on and on. So if I was writing an article, Bitcoin would be weak. It would be weak. It's up on the year, but just barely. But still, that is a objective statement. It's an objective fact. Bitcoin is still up on the year. You can't say that anymore when price is below this yellow line. So we'll see what happens today. But yeah, I think if the sellers are going to hit it, they're going to hit it here. So this would be where you would be putting on that trade. Now, if you're a patient individual and you think it's going to go up and make a fresh day high before it rejects, then you would be waiting for price to get up there before putting on the short. My opinion is, if it gets up there, it kind of feels like it wants to go higher. So the way that I do this, and the way that has made me successful over the years, is I generally try to keep things simple. So the simple trade is you would be putting on the short here. Wait for the bell, then put on the short. Because how many times have we been stopped out where we get the setup, right? Price is trading into the setup. We take the setup 5 minutes before the bell. Then you get 1 5-minute candle that stops you out, and then price rolls over. So yeah, that's kind of where we are. 9:25. Hopefully everybody's having a fantastic week. I'm going to close the week up. Even if all 3 of these trades get stopped out today, I made too much money over the weekend, and going into Monday, that losing $500 throughout the rest of the week just cut into a very small portion of those profits. So we did good this week. We would just love to close the week out strong. I will be taking profits if any of these things move into profit-taking territory. But we'll see what they do. All right, so yeah, here's Bitcoin. It is moving up. It is going into that setup. Remember, the setup is right there. that price, 89,506. Let's go out real quick and just look at January's volume real quick, because I love to look at session volume. It kind of shows us where the majority of the volume is traded. And as you can see, you're currently trading under what would be January's point of control. And a lot of technical circles say that anytime you're trading under the point of control, depending on what session you're looking at, any retest into that area would generally be a sell. So you could hypothetically break back above this trend line, this ascending trend line. This little tiny trend line is nothing, but it's the longer term ascending trend line that I'm speaking of. You could hypothetically break back above that, trade up into this area here, and find resistance. Let's go turn on the daily EMA, make sure we're in the right spot here. I don't believe we are. Yeah, we were not. So any pullback into the daily 21 exponential would be looked at as that sell side opportunity, since you lost it on this day, right? So any pullback back up into this area, and since that area also lines up with the POC, that's where my favorite sell side entry would be, not down here as an inside day, if that makes sense. Also, when we did put in this move, Bitcoin was extremely oversold. So generally, I like to see the RSI back off of those oversold conditions, get back up into, on the 4 hour, I could short a 55 or a 57, as long as it's still under the 50 on the daily chart, right? That's what we look for. We put more weight on the daily chart than we do the 4 hour. We use the 4 hour for entry purposes. We'll see how it plays out today. So let's get rid of these. But yeah, it doesn't look great. It doesn't look great. I mean, we're getting ready to get a damn death cross here on the 4 hour, and that's after getting a golden cross. So that kind of never is good. I never want to see that. So when the bulls are really firmly in control of price, I want to see pullbacks get bought. I don't want to see price blast through those lows. So we'll see what happens. I could be short down here. I just think the better trade is up here. That's why I'm not participating on the Bitcoin short right here. Hopefully you understand that. I don't have any shorts on Bonk or Pingu or Ethereum either. Yeah, I think for me, the best short setups are going to be on something like this. Now, it was also oversold on that wick, right? But you can see how it's backed off back up into the 50 as well. I don't like this structure either for the sell. Yeah, we reclaimed the weekly VWAP here, and I don't like that. So basically what I want to see is a rejection here, and then price start trading back under like around 361, then I'll feel better about the short. But I'm not really seeing much in the way of like any perfect setups at all. Yeah. So this is Fartcoin's open. So literally I'm just trying to buy a higher intraday low here. Let's get this gone because now it's subjective. If we're not looking at a monthly or the complete month data, then that indicator is subjective. Because that indicator works based on how many candles you have on the chart. That's why I specifically pulled up January's open and looked. You could look at weekly volumes if you just make sure you get rid of all candles prior to the week open, and then look at where the session volume profile is, and you can see we're kind of in contention here. So the POC for the weekly volume is right here. I don't need to look at weekly session volume profiles because that's what this does, right? That's what this green line does. It's your volume weighted average price. So it's just an average based on volume. So whenever you lose that, it signifies that, price action is actually weak, not strong. So buying this, not a great idea. It was just a shot in the dark. So yeah, I'm about to get stopped out of that. The actual real reason why I did that is because if you look at this longer term, it looks like a rounding bottom here. But I mean, the long might not be here. The long could be down here, right? As that's your yearly open on Fartcoin. But this does look like a longer term rounding bottom. So whenever I see this pattern on a long-term basis, it makes me kind of want to be more bullish, not bearish, because the bears have had every opportunity that they wanted to break this thing down below these lows, this low here. All right. And they just can't, for whatever reason. They just can't do it. And whenever that happens, I get a little bit more long-term bullishly biased, I guess you could say. But the entry could be difficult. So you can see now I've already been stopped out. It's breaking down. This literally was a good setup for a short. It was an easy setup for a short. If you would have been just simply shorting 4-hour res at the VWAP, that would have been the trade to take. Literally, it just, price was here. It had already rejected. I shouldn't even have got involved with it, to be honest with you. Everything we're looking at is a sell, right? Literally, we lined up the Bitcoin short right here for you perfectly. So if the short side's going to win out today, you're going to be positioned beautifully for that to happen. The Zcash and XMR trades kind of have me on edge because of the same thing. The sellers have been in control of price pretty much all week and have not been able to get a breakdown. So that's worrisome. Worrisome a little bit. We'll see what it does. Good morning, champ. Good morning, LMG, Alex, Wes, Tom, Oxum, everybody. Good morning. But yeah, I got asked that question in the DMs this morning about Bitcoin specifically, like where would the best position be because we're an inside day. Would I put more weight on to yesterday's high or the prior day's high? It's always the previous day, right? If you're trying to look at order flow, we have this 3 candle rule here. It doesn't matter what time frame, but if you're looking for a day trade, you want to see it what the last 3 days have done. If you're looking for a swing trade, the last 3 weeks. Looking for a position trade, the last 3 months, right? So generally speaking, we look at that to kind of give us a directional bias, but it's always the prior day's range. Because if you're going to break out, you more than likely will take out both swing highs. And the same could be said for the breakdown, right? If you're going to break down, you're most likely going to take out the prior 2 swing lows. So you would be positioning in and around the prior days, either open or swing high. And then you drop down into the 4-hour chart, and then you can get that positioning even tighter by using 4-hour swings and opens, right? It's a simplistic way to trade, but since we know there's no indicator on the planet that's going to give us a even decent hit rate of directional biases, there's nothing we can do to predict price. So obviously becoming successful has nothing to do with my ability to predict what price will do. It is in the way that I mitigate risk. Yeah, but I mean, technically speaking, it's weak, so you would be looking for the sell. We did see a little bit while Bitcoin's moving here. We did see a little bit of volatility around the Japanese yen last night, and that's because Ueda gave a speech, which, you know, he's the guy that's in the... Here, let me pull it up real quick if I still have it. Ueda, I'm not sure if I'm saying his name correctly, but he's like the BOJ head, like Powell. But yeah, they didn't really say anything. They're going to keep their interest rate steady at 75, which is where it is now. So they're not going to hike or cut. Also, they're watching. They did say that they kind of alluded to the fact that they might intervene if currency continues to trade so weak, or if the JGB long-term yields continue to spike. So that's what caused that bit of volatility, but it hasn't done anything since. So the structure of this is still up. However, you do have dollar weakness right now, and since you do have dollar weakness, one could anticipate looking for shorts on this asset, because the BOJ is kind of hinting like they are taking more of that stance of intervention, if that makes sense, right? We know that they intervened at 160 before. We can see that on the chart. We know exactly where they intervened in the past. They intervened here, then they intervened up there. So clearly it's getting closer and closer to where we know they could intervene at any point. But if they do intervene, I would assume it would probably be up above 162. I think they would rather see if the free market can take control of it, but it hasn't been able to since 2021. So yeah, I mean, I think intervention is going to be needed on this, but we'll see. This is obviously super bullish, so looking for shorts does not make sense. But if you are looking for shorts because of dollar weakness, then you would need the yen to be stronger than the dollar in order for a dollar weakness short to even work. I think you would be better off playing that on dollar weakness on a better pair, is what I'm trying to say. But yeah, you did see volatility here, but this is not intervention. Okay, so don't get caught up in looking at this big candle thinking that they did intervene. They have not yet. Basically, this thing could slowly trade right back up to 159.29. Be very careful if you're looking for shorts on this. All right, so Bitcoin is looking to take out the prior day's low. You are getting close. You can see where that prior day low is and where daily support will be. This is a profit-taking area, right? Because these are the areas that we anticipate as being support. So getting short here was the best trade, but I don't think it's a big enough move to justify profit-taking because the range is so tight. It isn't. It's only a 1% move. So literally, in order to make any money on this trade, you're going to need a breakdown here. Well, you might get it, but you definitely will need it. And Fartcoin getting some steam here now, retesting the day open. That would have been the better place to buy. Obviously, it's just, I'm not going to buy it again. I'm going to leave it alone here as it is weak. It is weak. You closed one 4-hour candle back above and lost it. Then again here and lost it. That doesn't scream strength to me. So, I might buy it again later on today if it can get back above 31.8, but I don't know. I don't love the idea of being long here. You have put in that lower low there, but still you're well above the yearly open. And the yearly open is going to be a huge level for the entire year. It literally dictates if the asset is bullish or not. So we'll see what people do if we get down there. Farcoin is a very good indicator of sentiment. As usually, well, not usually, but sometimes you will see Farcoin's move play out before we see the move on Bitcoin. That's kind of what had us extremely weak on Bitcoin at the very beginning of the week. We were looking for the short based on what Farcoin was doing. But since Farcoin isn't really signaling anything here for the rest of the week, we're kind of in the dark. So, I mean, the VIX is back down. S&P did, in fact, take out, let me see here. Yeah, that's going to be Thursday's low, all the way down there on futures. Okay, so that was just a prior intraday low. It is the cash market low, but the cash market has not taken out that low yet. Yearly open just under you on the S&P. It would be hard pressed to be a seller up here. You are under the January VWAP though, so you could be a seller up here. On the S&P, I would not be a seller right here. I would be more of a seller higher up on the range. Like if you make a fresh day high today on the S&P, that's when I would be a seller, not right now. So if the S&P trades up to 69.15, if you're an ES trader or a SPY trader or an SPX options trader, you might look to see if it rejects 69.15, and if it does, you could potentially put on a scalp looking for a fresh day low. Now, with that being said, you are against the year open range with that short. So the short worked out beautifully the other day. The fact that you're back above it means all those sellers are stuck. The S&P is literally poised for a run higher, but we're not really seeing tech. I mean, even communications gave back all of that breakdown. Whenever I see that it's hard to be bearish. And tech also, same thing. Now, you did fill the gap and you have rolled over on tech. So as long as you're under 145 on the XLK, there is potential for a larger downside move, but you're still bullish. The S&P is. Tech isn't. Tech is actually under the yearly open here. So tech actually looks better for the short for me than the SPX. So if you were looking for the short, if you have a sell side bias, you could make the argument that this chart is better for that trade, right? You are bearish on the year. You did break down of this triangle formation here. You retested the monthly VWAP and failed to get upside continuation above it. And now you're back under it. So same scenario, if XLK could test and fail 144, I could put on a short. So we'll see if this happens. Let's set an alert. This thing has options. So where's my alert, dude? Let me actually just set an alert right at day high. It'll pop up later. But yeah, we'll see what happens with that as well. Bitcoin trading down into the prior day. It's daily support and the prior day low. Doesn't really matter which is which here. You need a breakdown through both to amount to anything. Yeah, the best trade on XMR was yesterday. I got stopped out, so I didn't put on that trade up at 530. I wish I would have. That's the best trade to be in. So yeah, I'm kind of at a loss here today. Usually, I did, like I said, yesterday we would have done the live stream, but it wouldn't have really mattered because yesterday price didn't do anything. Technical problems, but when I'm on like Friday, when we do our Discord live stream every Friday, we're not like really hyped and ready to jump into a position because the way that my pay period goes, I work for myself, so Friday is the prior week's end and Saturday starts the new week for me. So that's basically how I do my finances and whatnot. So I am very seldom ever even putting on new trades on Friday. Usually I want to already be positioned and in continuation trades, like already have the position on, have already taken profits, and am just sitting in the continuation to see what happens with it. But usually this is not a day that I want to put on new positions because it's the end of the week. Now hopefully that changes in the future, and ES and VIX futures and currencies even all trade 24/7. When we get into that, that would be much better. Then maybe I could be looking to put positions on at the end of the week. A lot of people do, though, put positions on at the end of the week because we see that oftentimes in volume spikes on Fridays, right? So we do know a lot of people trade on Friday. Best technical analyst or analysis out there, says Oxum. Thank you so much for that, my friend. Unparalleled Alex also responded. Thank you so much, guys. Good morning, Bill. CompCop, hi. Can you take a look at USDT-D? UST.D. So dominance, it was able to reject the 618 hard. Is it wise to look at the retest to see if it's okay to long crypto based on USD double reject? Okay, so first off, let me pull that chart up. I don't look at USDT.D. First and foremost, USDT is a stable coin. So I'm assuming this is speaking in terms of dominance against Bitcoin, maybe? Let me look at the monthly chart. I'm not exactly sure what this is. This not a tradable asset, so it's going to get its numbers based off what the crypto market is doing as a whole. I'm not sure what 618 you're speaking of. Are you talking about maybe all-time high down to current low? Like up here? Maybe not, because that's a midpoint check. It was able to reject a 618. Could you be more specific, as to like just what levels you're getting that fib off of? Fib from 640 to 715. Oh. Okay, so you're using this month's range. Not even this month. 617. So probably this week. It's a very tight fib, my friend. It's not even this week. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure why you're fibbing those prices. The way I'm not saying the way you're doing it is wrong, first and foremost. Let me just get that out there. The way that I do fibs is by range, right? By range. So if I'm looking at a yearly range, I'm looking for the midpoint usually. If I'm looking at a monthly range, etc., right? I'm not exactly why you've decided to fib the month high to 617. I mean, I got 619 here. So maybe you're just using literally the weekly high down to the week midpoint. Yeah, I mean, here, let's just make it simple, right? We don't even need to fib for this. So you can see clearly this is your week expansion, right? This is your weekly open. There's your weekly low. This marks the weekly high. So in terms of if you just fibbed that, right? You could see that it was an upside expansion. So you always want to take the fib from the low to high. When you're looking at a downside expansion, you would fib from high to low, okay? But since it was an upside expansion, you could simply say that the midpoint is holding support. However, you are trading into what we consider resistance, which is the highest daily close inside of that weekly candle. Since the highest daily close was January 20th day, that day's close marks resistance simply because you have not been able to close a daily candle higher than that. So you are into resistance here, right? But you're making higher daily lows. So that means the breakout does seem as if though it wants to go up. Now that doesn't mean it will. Like I said, we can never predict what price will do no matter how good of an analyst we are. So, but it does look like it's more prone to break up, to close higher than the resistance level here. I don't know if it will or not. So could you short here? Yes, you could. Simply because if you're looking to short here, you're shorting yesterday's high. So your target would be either yesterday's open or yesterday's low if you were anticipating a breakdown. So I don't see anything wrong with the trade in terms of the spot, right? If you're looking for shorts around the rejection point, I don't see anything wrong with it. However, with that being said, with all the things that I look at to give me my like intra-week bias, I would be more prone to look for longs around this level. And then of course I would go down into a smaller time frame, a 4-hour chart, and try to get that long off at an even tighter spot. You know what I mean? So I would kind of be against looking for shorts here today, but that does not mean it won't work. So hopefully, I try not to offend anybody, and I do get very passionate sometimes when I'm describing how I would play it. And sometimes people take that as me yelling at them or whatever, and it's not. It's just, this is my favorite. Like, when I found trading, I knew right away that it was, if I could ever learn how to do it successfully, would be my passion in life. Like, everybody has something they're good at, right? Something, whether it's drawing or painting or arguing or whatever. Everybody has something that they're passionate about, that they're good at. For me, it would be this. I love buying stuff and flipping it for a profit, or selling stuff and flipping it for a profit. And I mean, yeah, I don't see anything wrong with it. I'm not sure. Like I said, usually USDT especially is pegged to the dollar. So generally speaking, it just goes sideways, right? So this is just the dominance, though. So it could be dominance against other stable coins or what. I don't really know how it would affect Bitcoin. Bitcoin had a nasty fall and this moved up. So yeah, since it's the trend for this week, the order flow is clearly up, then you could anticipate Bitcoin going lower. But like I said, that does not mean it will. It's working so far for our setup, but does it continue or not? That's where the money will be made. If it continues, you will get paid. If it doesn't, you will eat a stop because it's barely moved. You're down 0.7% on the day. And that short setup was taken real close to the day open. So your short was actually taken a little bit better than the open, because we were specifically looking at the prior 4-hour swing high. That was our short setup coming into today. So yeah, you will need Bitcoin literally to close the day out, or at least expand the day out, the day's range down below 2%, in order to make a good money trade. And Bitcoin doesn't hardly do that anymore. The volatility on Bitcoin is declining over time. That's why we went more focus, or that's why we put a lot more focus on the likes of like Fartcoin and Pingu and, you know, other assets that move more given the daily ranges. When the asset that you're trying to day trade rarely ever moves beyond 1%, unless you're super levered up, you're not going to make a lot of money. And unfortunately for a lot of crypto, especially offshore crypto exchanges, they charge an asinine amount of fees. So the more leverage you put on the trade, the more fees they take, and vice versa. So like for me, versus what I pay in fees compared to Bitcoin's daily ranges, I literally need Bitcoin to move beyond 0.5% to even justify the trade. Because if it moves less than 0.5%, you're not going to make a profitable trade because of fees. So that kind of forced me away from Bitcoin, because volatility is being sucked out of the Bitcoin market, which is a positive thing over time. The less volatile Bitcoin becomes in the future, the more money will pile into Bitcoin in the future. The reason you don't have, trillions right now just flooding into the Bitcoin market is because it is still occasionally very volatile. But given week to week to week, it isn't really that volatile. It did lose 30%, right, of its total gain or of its total value. So that period was very volatile, but since then it hasn't really done anything, right? Long term, it's just it's bouncing back and forth in December's range. It makes it very difficult to trade it when that's what it's doing. We need large percentage moves in our direction to make money. And I just have a lot better luck with Fartcoin and other things because they do move so good. Usually. Sometimes Fartcoin also does not move. As you can see, if you shorted the open on Fartcoin, you're still not seeing much of anything happen on your trade, as Fartcoin is just down 0.3%. Now, if it gets down 5% today, you will. All right? The open is right here, so it tried to get down there. It did make a fresh day low, so that is good for short sellers. What they want to see is continuation now. And we're just not seeing that in a lot of markets. So if this doesn't start to break down, I'll probably just close it, as this looks more like it's trying to break out. The volume deltas are still negative, but they were right, like good negative, and then instead of getting that downtrend, they went right back to neutral. So the simple fact that this 4-hour candle is inside the prior 4-hour candle range, I need to see this thing breaking down. I need to see it lower than 354 in order to justify holding the short. Because these lows are higher. And just like that dominance chart looked, this looks like it's trying to break to the upside, not the downside. However, if it does break below this trend, then it will probably give us a little nice continuation move. But if it refuses to even make lower lows, I can't justify holding the short. It did start the day off that way, and it is still holding the day open as resistance, but you don't really see those sellers jumping on it. So I'd like to see some expansion soon. This sideways annoying garbage is driving me crazy. Same for this. It really hasn't done anything. We put in a really nice move lower on Monday, took out Sunday's lows, closed under Sunday's lows. Monday put in a lower low, and ever since we've been making higher lows. So inside. Actually, this is a trending day to the upside, as we took out the prior day's high. So as of right now, the candle itself is red because it's currently trading under the open, but it doesn't have to go very far to be an up trending candle, right? So yeah, I would love for it to get down here and take out yesterday's low, because then it would be a bearish engulfing, and that would look better for potential downside continuation next week. But since it's Friday, we're getting ready to go into the weekend, and the weekend in crypto markets is usually really boring for the majority of assets. Every weekend we will see these few that see insane moves, right? Like we just seen one the other day that was absolutely on fire. We were watching it to see if it would reject the yearly open, and it did not. It is now where is it? Right here. It is now, but you're not seeing that continuation. I got stopped out of this trade. So here was that big brutal day. We were looking for the short on this day, but it failed. This thing is trading absolutely bonkers right now. Super bonkers. If it can continue to reject 38,938, I would have more of a sell side bias on it, but it's a very goofy looking chart. It's not something that's like, it almost looks like it's being manipulated. However, we'll see what it does next week. This is a very big bullish weekly engulfing. So next week, as long as it closes out like this or above the prior week's high, any pullback into this area would be a potential buying up on Pippin because of what it just did this week, right? Boom, boom. So you can see how like the sellers aren't winning this battle. The buyers are. As price traded down into the prior day's open, those buyers would come running. Boom. So this is the resistance, but it looks like the buyers have control of this asset. So I could be a buyer on an intraday level as low as 37,165. As long as you're not closing 4-hour candles below this, my near-term bias on this would be up, higher. The problem is the resistance is right here. So would that even justify a position? Yeah, that's a 4.8% move from here to here. So I will continue to watch this, because if it's being manipulated by whoever controls the majority of the supply on this thing, if they're manipulating, and I'm not saying they are, but if they are, when is the best time to manipulate price? On the weekend, all right? It literally is the best time because there's less liquidity on the weekend. So if this stays poised like this going into the weekend, I would probably be more of a buyer on this. If the sellers break it back down, then I wouldn't be. As long as you're under the yearly opening range, you have to have a bearish bias. Or you should have a bearish bias. On the month, this thing is going to look kind of bullish here. And it definitely looks bullish on the week, right? According to volume. Yeah, I could justify along here if this price holds as support. You start closing candles under that, it's over. Or might not be over, but it makes it a more risky long. As long as prices aren't, as long as candles are not closing under this price, then it feels more like a long. That's Pippin USDT. I have no clue what this thing is, what it was built for, or what its designed purposes are. But just looking at the chart, I mean, they were trying to kill this thing for a long time. Could be topping out though. We'll keep it on watch for sure. So Bitcoin not really doing anything here. Let me look at what the S&P. Yeah, the S&P is back to... Okay, the S&P is right at where we were looking to be a seller if, right? If. Because that's all we can do as traders is make if this then that statements. So if the S&P cannot get upside continuation above this white line, we would be sellers. We would be sellers here. Yeah, this candle's got about 4 minutes left on the close. But remember, it's above the yearly open, so it's more structured, long-term bullish. Just here on the near term. Now, if it continues to make fresh day highs, we don't want to sell it. It must reject here or soon, right? Because then it's just not a short. But we don't short the VWAP because it's not really an objective price. I mean, I guess it is, depending on... I mean, math is used to plot the line, so it is objective. I like to structure my entries around objective prices, closes, or prior swing highs, to be specific. So we don't have a higher time frame prior swing high here. So basically we would just be like, you could justify a short side entry based off this 30-minute swing high as long as price is not continuing to push beyond that level. If it pushes beyond this level, it is most likely not a sell, at least on the near term. So you could, in theory, go ahead and put the position on with a stop loss. Okay, so I would use like a 5-point wide stop to try to make 10 points. But right now the market seems bullish, so we got to give it a little bit of time to see if it is going to reject here. Fresh day low would be more than okay for a profit target. If you're risking 10 points, you would be trying to make, or risking 5 points. So your entry would be like 69.15, stop 69.20, take profit 69.05. Bitcoin is a bearish engulfing, so I would assume here in the next session at 11, when we open a new 4-hour candle, sellers will be more prone to jump on it if it closes like this, or better. If it closes down here, that would be better. But there's still more than enough time on this to close as a bullish engulfing. That's what's so terrible about these tight ranges. All it would take is just one good 5-minute candle, and this thing could close as a bullish engulfing, which would completely change the entire intraday structure. Okay, so the S&P's looking like it does want to reject here. If that happens, then I feel a lot better about the Bitcoin short. Because the S&P right now is trying to basically suss out longer term direction. You literally broke above the yearly opening range as well as the volume, the month volume. So the fact that it can't get upside continuation above this stuff smells like weakness. So right here is like, yeah, let's make this a little bit, so this range right here, that means this is fair value. See what I'm saying? So if this rejects fair value, I would anticipate it getting back down here at the very minimum. This is going to be a big level to beat for the bears. And then obviously the bulls just push it up into here and then break out. They've got it. So it's a pretty cut and dry trade here on the S&P. It's either going to reject and head lower this for the last of the session, but we'll see. Yeah, and you're well under where we closed out last week. So yeah, it looks like they sold last week's close. They front ran it even. They front ran it. That just simply means that they were so anxious to get in that short position, they didn't even allow it to get back up there. Look at this on an intraday basis. This white line, they couldn't even get it back up there. So yeah, looks good. I didn't get to put the position on because I was going to give it a little bit more time, but I don't love this either. So, I mean, I would be more bullish. I would be actually anticipating a midpoint check down here to be bought up. But today could be a failed 21 retest, right? If you close the day back under, that's going to look like a failure. But you can see where support is, right? Just be careful. It's Friday. But you are getting that bearish reaction at least. So. And Bitcoin even made a fresh lower low here. So remember, we still got 42 minutes on this, but a close under 88,754, that will be a bearish 4-hour engulfing at resistance. Okay. Yeah, it's an old weekly swing low. So under support, sorry, not resistance. Yeah, this chart looks like dog shit to me. You gotta be a seller on Bitcoin right now. If you're a trader, if you're an investor, Bitcoin's probably a buy down here. But as a trader, this is a nasty weak chart. Come on, biatch, break down for me. Let's see some of these babies right here. That's what I like to catch. These little itty bitty things, man, no. All three of these fit in this one. You know what I mean? Give me this. Yeah. Love that. But a lot of people love this asset. A lot of people buy this asset because it is a privacy token. I don't own it. But it is what it is. And same for this. Like, very tight, just disgusting, tight, choppy ass garbage. Give me some big trending candles, baby. That's what we always want to see anyway. Happy Friday. URA already up 30% this year. About to close above resistance on the weekly. Okay, let's go look at it real quick. Uranium, right? Isn't this like a uranium? Doesn't it have something to do with uranium? Yeah, it's the global uranium ETF. Like I said, China is in a war style economy. They are literally accumulating things that you normally don't see countries accumulating in peacetime. They are accumulating stuff like a wartime economy. So, yeah, I mean, it's doing really good. I mean, not really anything for me to tell you to do here. I definitely would not be telling you to be a buyer up here at these highs, but it's a big breakout. And you said specifically it's up 30%. So right here, you're correct. That's the open. So basically, it opened up the year and just took off. People were buying it as quick as they could, hand over fist. Now, I'd be more concerned with profit taking happening, but obviously it could still break out. Yeah. It's strong, man. Strong like a bull. It is well above resistance. It's coming into prior swing highs, but you're correct. It's not the all-time week high close. But yeah, if you close above 55.15, it's going to be a near-term high week close. So If this week's low can hold on any pullback, it would be an opportunity to be a buyer for that momentum. If you lose that price with like daily closes, I'd be looking for that deeper retracement, potentially down to 24, but we'll see what it does. I can't do anything with it way up here. So I would love to see a shallow retracement and like give me at least a day of rejecting that price, and then yeah, it could be a short-term buyer targeting 57 at least. Very strong. Very strong. Is it a good time to take a position on gold and silver? Maybe split between those two? Are you talking about like a buy? No. But we want to buy when price isn't volatile. So this is for future reference for yourself. Like hopefully you're a younger individual. You want to wait for charts to go in what we call consolidation, which just literally means it's in a very choppy range for a long time. That's when you want to be a buyer on lows. Anytime price dips into those long-term consolidation lows and rejects, that basically tells you that buyers are accumulating it because it's failing to break down. Those are the prices that you want to buy before the rallies, right? You want to get positioned before the rally. That way, once you do break out to fresh all-time highs, you can start doing what I was doing in 2025 and liquidating those assets, right? Liquidating those assets into fresh highs. So I will reaccumulate what I liquidated when gold pulls back and builds a long-term range. That's when I will be looking to repurchase more gold coins, more silver, yada yada. Right now it's squeezing shorts. So just a small pullback could be a huge loss for you depending on your position size and leverage used. A very small correction in price could literally be catastrophic loss. So it's not a good time to be a buyer right now. With that being said, I'm not in the CCP. I don't know how many tons of gold they're continuing to buy and things like that. So there's no way I'd be shorting it trying to anticipate a top. Gold doesn't really have any kind of what even closely resembles a top going on here. At least with silver, we can say, well, $100 is a big figure number, right? It's a huge, huge figure. Silver's never been here before, so we don't know how it will respond to these prices. That high is 94 cents, really close to 100. And we can also look at last month's expansion, and we can say that we are 100% at this area. So at least with silver, I could give myself a reason to potentially look for a scalp short based on that info. But still, also, this thing is at 93.90 on the RSI on the monthly time frame. Like, that's how overbought it is. This is record levels of overbought. It is a short squeeze. You are squeezing specifically two big banks out of a massive short position that the Fed did in fact bail them out of. So they did close that position. That is what you're seeing here. The remnants of that. Plus near-term scalpers taking advantage of these large ranges and all this volatility. But no, you do not want to buy up here. Did you want to buy here? Looking at this chart in hindsight, would you have wanted to be a buyer on silver when the last time it got to 86 on the month? Well, no, because you can see that it pulled back for the next 20 years. It never went back to that price for years. You're potentially about to see the exact same scenario play out here. Maybe not exact same, because maybe it pulls back down to 70 and people do buy that, right? And in anticipation of more upside volatility. So I figure silver will be very choppy for the foreseeable future. And I can't mark a top, but I can say it is getting very, very close to potentially being a blow-off style top. If we go look at the weekly, like, you have massive amounts of divergence going on here right now. This weekly candle would need to expand by twice the size it is right now today in order to get rid of this bearish divergence. So you are getting close to a top. I don't know where it will be, but it will happen. It could be $20 higher for all I know. It's impossible to predict, but I can predict a pullback in silver's future for sure. I just ain't willing to put a lot of money on it to make that prediction come true. A little bit of money, maybe, right? Like, just for a scalp trade, yeah, why not? Worst case that can happen is I can lose 50 or 100 bucks on the trade. Nothing. But no, I would not be buying silver at $100 an ounce. If you do, I got a bunch of it I'll sell you. I have a lot of silver, 1 ounce, 99.9% pure silver coins. I will sell a lot of them to you at $100 if you want them. A lot of them. So wait for it to be less volatile. Let it pull back. Let it find support. Give it time to build in a long-term support and then look to buy it. Please. This volatility is about to run out. There's a lot of things that are helping this. You also have dollar pulling back pretty significantly this week. Since silver's traded versus the dollar, it makes sense that silver is exploding here. But it's getting close to being done. Probably. But I'm sure people thought that at 50 too. You know what I mean? Because 50 was a big figure number for a long time on silver. So I'm sure people had that same exact thought at 50 bucks. It's gonna pull back at 50. Here we are just a few weeks later at 100. Yeah, those big banks, they had on one bank, Citibank, I think it was Citi, or I can't remember the other one. I just remember Citibank specifically, but there were two banks. One bank had a $4.8 billion short on, and another bank had a $1.8 billion short on. And then over that weekend, the Fed bailed those suckers out. So probably with the added, I will only bail you out if you close the short. So they did, and boom, up it went. This right here had a lot of people thinking the move was done. That was not blow-offy enough for me. I want to see like multiple weeks lows taken out in one nasty week. When you see that happen, you can pretty much be like, okay, I'd say that's going to set a near-term top. It's when the last person buys up here, that's when it'll roll over. Once that last short gets squeezed out, then it'll roll over. It's getting close. It's exactly at 100%. It's actually above it. 99.4 was the 100% extension of last month's rally. We can put that on here. Boom, boom, boom. So right here was that 100% extension. It's a huge, huge extension. Gold's is even worse. That's why gold doesn't even have, you can't even, because like you're well above 100% extension of the prior month on gold. Boom, boom, boom. But we can go back and look and see if gold did even pull back there. Nope. It blasted right through it and never looked back. Crazy. You're at 1.68. If you get to 2, that's a 2 standard deviation move of last month. I would probably be willing to sell that on gold. Clearly, $5,000 is the big figure number that everybody's watching for gold. So gold is most likely not going to reject right at 5,000. If it even gets up there. If it gets up there, it's probably not going to just turn right around there. It could, but I would anticipate a larger spike up into here. And then I could put a short position on just because it's way extended. But I've seen markets move 3, 4 standard deviations before. There's no end as to, like, there's nothing that's going to call a top for sure, but up here you can clearly see that people are putting on positions based on this. Oh, it blasted through the 100. So all the shorts that jumped on here, they got squeezed there. This upside continuation forced more people to get liquidated. Then it traded sideways for a little bit, and then boom, up here, this is where the next big number is. So it makes sense that it's sideways here. But yeah, if you do something similar to this through there, maybe it trades sideways for a little while longer. Boom, boom. It would probably have enough steam to go up above that $5,000 area. But if it rejects 50, 82, spot 72 perfectly, yeah, I'd put that trade on. It would just be a day trade, so no huge risk. Not a lot of risk, just a little bit. A little bit. A tiny amount. The Bitcoin did give you a lower low, but instantly pulled back again. Not really what you want to see. Typically, you want to see, if you're right on that direction, you want to see that expansion take place and give you at least 2 or 3 candles in your direction. What is Fartcoin doing? Yeah, Fartcoin's holding the day open. Something don't feel right to me here. Yeah, volatility on a 4 hour is non-existent. It's literally on the floor. So if volatility is getting ready to expand, this indicator is not a directionally biased indicator. It will expand on down moves and up moves, right? But you've been on the floor here for a minute. So I'd say a move is coming soon. But the question is, which way? Well, if it's refusing to go lower, I'd say the other way. Are we seeing... I don't think you've got enough time for volatility to be on the floor here on the 8 hour. Let's drop down to the 2 hour. Yeah, once you get down this low, it's a wash. I like that 4 hour vol signal though. No volatility whatsoever. You're literally on the floor. It's as low as you can go with this indicator. You can see how when it spends quite a bit of time on the floor, you get breakdowns or breakouts. They do come sometimes with a nice trending move. I might look to buy Fartcoin at the day open if it gets back down there again. and holds again. Might have already missed that op. No, not really. This actually looks good for downside continuation still. I take what I just said back. On Fartcoin, because you did get that downside expansion candle. This is a retracement candle, so as long as it stays under the previous high, then you would anticipate that further downside move. The sellers will be looking at 30 exactly to try to catch that downside break. We could... No, I'm not going to. Not with Bitcoin being this sluggish. The VIX is back down to 1564. S&P is not rejecting our short, so not looking good. It looks like it wants to go up, and for those reasons I would be more prone to be a buyer than a seller today. Now if that changes at any point, because it's just now getting back up to that level, remember we said if it rejects the high, you're specifically doing that right now. Oh, but I mean, I wouldn't love the idea of being short here unless it rejects. But you did just make a fresh day high, so it needs to reject now. Otherwise, I don't like the short. If it doesn't reject now, it's not a short for me. If this rejects and puts in a lower low on the daily range, then I would anticipate Fartcoin and look at this. Zcash giving that upside expansion. Got it. Probably did eat a stop on that. So it makes it harder for me to be a seller on Fartcoin here, with everything else like just going up. I have not been stopped out on Zcash just yet, but it's very close. Yeah, that is not the reaction I wanted to see. So it kind of feels like Zcash is trying to break out. Here goes Fartcoin back to the upside. So me buying that prior 4-hour swing low, it's a valid setup. It just didn't work out that time. Very choppy, very, very much on the floor here. I'm interested to see if Bitcoin is also on the floor with volatility. Not quite. Zcash, not quite. XMR. Oh, XMR still losing volatility. STG's insane. This is another reason why, like, look at this thing. There's some cryptos are doing really good. Some are not. Huge divergences. I would be more prone for the bullish breakout. That's how I was leaning going into today's session. So kind of feel like as long as it's not making fresh daily lows, the upside break is coming. I just got stopped out. I tried to nail that trade, missed it. Thank you. You're welcome for your perspective. I look USDT smaller time frame to take position crypto long short. So far so good. Nice. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. I said or arguing for lawyers, because lawyers, if you notice, they have a really good ability to turn a literal nothing into like some big exquisite argument. That's their job, right? That's what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to argue the facts of the case. But yeah, had a couple of GFs with that talent. Yeah, women can argue for sure, but so can I. especially if I get passionate about something or take a stand on something. I can get really ranty. I jump straight up on that soapbox with the best of them. I try not to on the internet, but occasionally, and I have been victim to, have a few drinks and then start arguing on the internet. That's always fun to look back on. Be like, oh my gosh, why didn't I just keep my mouth shut? Will February be bullish, says Jewelry Affairs. I can say this. If Bitcoin is above the yearly opening range going into February, I would like it more for an upside rally. Now, I don't know how big that rally would be, but I would definitely love to see Bitcoin retest the weekly 21 exponential. If it could get back up there, that would be a beautiful sight. You know what I mean? That would be good. That would be really, really constructive. But we rejected it, no doubt. That and the 50. And this does not look good going into next week. Unless it gives a lot of it back today or this weekend. This is a nasty looking chart. You have broken this trend line here, these higher lows. You have broken it. You took out 2 weeks worth of lows. That's kind of like what's acting as support here. It's just like, but this is what people buy. When people are really bullish on something for the long term, they want to buy into weakness, not strength. So people don't like it up here, right? They don't want to buy it up here. They want to wait for this. Now they can be buyers. I'm glad it didn't lose the 100 on a weekly closing basis so far. I'm glad near-term weekly support is still holding as support. So those are good. Like, those could be good prices to watch for the long if price continues to reject going lower than that. You still really haven't even tested it, but I mean, when you take out prior weekly lows, I generally want to see that side of the trade get continuation. The fact that it hasn't, I would be very nervous if I was holding a short on Bitcoin at the open, right? If I just jumped on the short on the open and Bitcoin did this week, I would be worried about that position. It just didn't do what I would have anticipated it doing, especially once it got below these lows. That's where it should have took off. Like, you know what I'm saying? Look at it here. When it lost this low, like, boom, it took off. Now, it didn't close on the lows. It did retrace most of that, but that was a beautiful short setup on this weekly range. Like, that was a perfect entry almost. And then look at that continuation you got straight through that moving average and well below those lows, right? And then this last one was an even better one. So yeah, seeing this and knowing that it's Friday, I would be very, very upset if I was holding a short at 93.4. Not upset, but I would definitely be wanting to see next week open and take off to the downside. And we might see that, right? We could be watching that specific price to be like, we could be watching weekly supply for resistance next week. Also, remember what I said earlier in the stream? If it gets back up here, like, to me, that would just be more of a better sell. It would get all of these near-term sellers out of the market. Potentially pull new sellers back into the market. It'd just be a better area to watch for the short. But I wouldn't want to see that retest either so quickly. Generally, when you lose the 21, you want to see that multi-day expansion occur, where you just break it and you lose it and you take off. Like we did here. This, when we were trading in here, we kind of had a near-term bullish bias, but what we didn't want to see that Wednesday was that. Once we got that, that's pretty much when we said, all right, we're short if we smoke Friday's high. And then you got that retest, boom. So yeah, the sellers are going to be here. I don't know if they'll win or not, but if we get anything that looks like this or this over here, I will be a seller. Yeah. That will be where Trade Talk gets involved with the Bitcoin short. It should have already got that move lower. And since it didn't, that's telling me that, you know, the sellers just aren't that confident down here. Retail already knows, right? If you go on Twitter, the 4-year cycle is going to play out. There are so many people that are putting 2022 cycle on this thing. They're already calling for $20,000 lows. So they are ready to short at every single swing high. But not, the pros are going to be a little bit more selective in where they're looking to put that risk on. Yeah, I mean, I didn't love the short coming into today. It's Friday. A Tuesday 21 exponential retest. Hopefully that happens. We will be shorting that. Unless you get, like, I mean, look at this garbage. Yeah, been stopped out of the XMR trade almost also. So everything that I had open is closed. Literally. Here's Zcash. It's taken off to the upside. XMR. It's refusing to go down. Whenever I see this kind of price action, that does not make me bearish. It makes me mad. So clearly these things want to smoke these highs up here. But this one, it made more sense to me that it would roll over today. But clearly my position is terrible. You see that? Like, the best short is here, not where I am. I usually will put on shorts here because it is daily res until you close a day above it. But the fact that we can't even make fresh day lows today, yeah, it makes me really, really sad. Really, really sad. I'm not going to close it just yet because it is just now retesting the open. But if it don't start to head lower soon, I am going to bail on this trade. I am going to bail on it because it just ain't feeling right. But I'm not going to... I mean, if it gets up here, I'm out. I'm not even going to hold it. I'm just going to get out. But this was clearly the best place for the entry today. So that's the problem. That's why my trade isn't working out. Is these smart guys, which is usually me. Usually that's me. These smart guys up here, they took profits on this, right? As this candle pushed down into this white line, these traders were taking profits. And that's why this candle is going back up. What I need is for sellers to come here. And I wouldn't do that. Not with this look. Nope. I wanted to see it break down below this low. That's where I needed literally to see the move take place. The reason, because it didn't take place, now I'm like completely on the wrong side of this. So, like I said, there will be nothing that we can look at to tell us if our trades will work or not. Especially when something's in price discovery. It's annoying, it's choppy, you're going to eat stops. That's why risk management is so detrimental to your future success. I know a lot of people give me ideas and tell me you should look at this and you should look at that, but trust me, if I felt like it was that much of an edge to look at that indicator, I would look at it, obviously. There just isn't any indicator that's going to give you a better than a 50-50 hit rate, or at least a better than a 50-50 odds. People buy and sell for all sorts of different reasons. The trades that work out the best are the trades that are generally with the trend, but sometimes even when you're with the trend, you're still going to be wrong. As clearly Bitcoin is weak. Clearly you should be a seller, right? It just not breaking down. And it hasn't been able to all week. And that's got to give you pause. At least if you are a seller. So that's where I would have put on risk if I was going to take the short on this today. I didn't. Because like I said earlier, I think there are better things to look at. I did nail this long. I've closed that trade out because I'm looking for other positions. The other day, I kind of felt like it was going to roll over here, but it didn't. So for that day only, I kind of wanted to see if it failed here. I was going to put on a short. And since we've gotten this move here now, this is going to give me more of a bullish bias on Euro next week. So this is a good look, and it's going to be a really good close. So it's still very choppy in here. It's not the best setup. You're getting ready to be into a key level of resistance. But if the Euro breaks out, this is going to potentially put in a trending move. I don't know how far that trending move could get. Yeah. I'm sure the Eurozone do not like the fact that Euro is trending back up or looking like it's trying to break out here. But you could see a larger trending move, and that's what I would want to catch. I don't know if it'll go up to 125, but you get what I'm saying. A breakout could give us at least a couple weeks of upside continuation, and I want to be long for that. It's been looking like it wants to break out. I would love to see a trending move at least a couple months on the Euro if it breaks out. So I'm going to be trying to get positioned on the near term for that. Because of what happened yesterday, that gave us our bullish bias back. Well, I didn't really lose it. I just wanted to see what happened there. This is a very good reaction. Very good reaction. This is what I would have wanted to see had I been a buyer at the prior day low. And Euro was a beautiful buy down here. That's literally where we bought it on Sunday evening, because that's when it gave us that move. I wasn't buying it based on the 200. I was buying it based on December's low. And it was the previous week's low. This was our exact position. 1.15843. That's where the long was at. Right there. And it worked. Our first profit target was here. So long here, take profits here. Boom. Then we got an even bigger move the next day, so that's why I closed the whole trade down. It was good enough. Now I'm looking for repositioning. Next week will be important. As long as it holds 1677, I would probably be bullish. Bitcoin exploding to the upside, making it a failed short. Bam! That always sucks. What I'm talking about, Bitcoin isn't even easy to trade anymore because of the lack of volatility. I think you'd be better off trading the likes of Fartcoin, Pingu, Bonk, things like that, because you get more volatility out of these. Right there's Pingu's open. It's only up 1.75%, so things aren't even moving hard yet. This could be a really good day by the end of the day. We'll see. I'm not going to buy anything today. I'm done for the week. Especially if I get out of that XMR, I'm done. It was a good week, and get ready for next week. What do you think about USD JPY? We spoke about it earlier. I think it was a volatile move last night because of the BOJ news conference, but they didn't really say much in terms of like causing that big of a move. If you get what I'm saying, like they didn't intervene, and they didn't hike interest rates, and they didn't lower interest rates. They did nothing. They just came out. They had more of a hawkish stance, like we will if we have to, and that's what sparked the volatility. If you are trying to short it based on dollar weakness, right, you're not even trading it for because of the yen at all. You're just looking for a US dollar short. Then I think you would be better off playing that on something else, like a pound dollar or a euro dollar. But if you have to trade USD JPY, then, I mean, I just don't love it. I just don't love it. And the reason is because it's still very bullish. It is still very bullish. As long as you're closing days above this, you have to be bullishly biased, right? Through here, it was super choppy. It took a long time, but you can see what I'm saying. As long as you're closing days, daily candles above the 21, it's a difficult short to take. And even then, I can do one better. Like, as long as you're closing weeks above 154, it's hard to get a bearish bias on this. No, I would argue that as long as you're rejecting prior week lows, you should be long. So right here, you would have gotten long right here, right? That trade paid. This was the first prior week low retest that you've gotten since this prior low retest. Every single week after this prior low retest was a higher low, higher low, higher low. So this is the first time that you've been able to buy the prior week low retest. And that's where the buyers were. Now, I don't know if they'll be right. That I can't tell you. But as long as you're trading up off of this price, it's hard to get me to be a bear. So I don't love the idea of looking for USD JPY shorts just because of dollar weakness. You would also have to convince me that the yen is also going to firm up. Right? The actual yen currency futures, you would have to be able to tell me that this is going to get strong. And I could make the argument with you that right now you can say it's trying to firm up. But what happens in the weeks to come, that's going to be a lot more important. So right now, you're still bearish on the year. Like, you've done nothing here to be bull or bearish USD JPY. Now, if you're looking for longs on USD JPY, then obviously you'd be watching prior weeks or prior month lows for those long trades. Those are going to be the better trades, but I can't tell if they're going to work or not. So right now you're like rejecting a breakdown, but it's so close. It's just right here on the near term. So this is going to be a big level for longs to step up on next week. And if they don't, then you're going to see further downside here. This looks like it wants to go lower to me. Yeah, I mean, I could even make the argument of being short right here, but it's like the same as any other trade. We won't know until time moves on if we're right or not. This was a super volatile time right here, man. Holy cow. That got way up there. So next week will be huge on the yen. We'll see what it does. So what I would say to you is if the yen futures is trading under this week's close at any point next week, I would not have a bullish bias on it. If it is trading above last week's open, then you could make the argument that you might see some near-term strength on it, but it's not going to be because of intervention. They did not intervene yet. They might intervene in the future, but I'd say it's going to have to be up at 160 at least before they will even think about getting involved. Obviously, they don't want to get involved because that's just going to cause higher inflation in the long term. But they will if they have to. And that could spark a big downside move. That's what caused us to short it the last time, right? Was the BOJ intervention. And the last time we did short it, based on that intervention, it was a good signal. Because we took that short based on what the dollar was doing, not what the USD JPY was doing. We knew there could be intervention, but we wanted to position that short in and around the DXY. So we did nail it. We will be keeping an eye on it. I just think it's too low for intervention. If you start to see some serious volatility in this to the downside, more than what we saw last night, obviously, way more than that. That is nothing in the context of a long term. Like this kind of volatility is what I'm talking about. You see something like that, then maybe we could put in some shorts. But until then, I mean, think about the people that sold the New York session this morning. Right here, think about those sellers, what they're going through right now. There's 9 o'clock. There was your short signal, right? And nothing's happened. They're probably starting to feel a little bit like they're on the wrong side of this thing. That was the only short setup today to take. I couldn't have shorted anywhere down in here. It would have to be here, right? It's literally the only setup. The next setup's all the way up here. So it has to be here. If you do get that big downside expansion and a nice close down, then next week we could look for those lower high shorts. But we'll have to wait for the setup. I didn't want to put anybody on a setup here on a Friday. The yen has a bad habit of moving sharply on the open on Sunday night. Real bad habit of doing that. So be careful with it. I think you're better off looking for trades on other assets. Does Bitcoin still have a chance for a decent relief rally, or do you think 98K was it? No, I absolutely think Bitcoin has a chance for a huge rally. Here's the thing, right? Imagine all the people in Iran right now fighting against their government. Here, let me play this. Something I was going to talk about today and just changed my mind and didn't. But I will go ahead and pull it up here real quick. All right, so
people think about,
let me do this real quick and give me a moment to get situated here. I am the producer, director, and everything of this. All right, here we go. Yeah, this is Brian Armstrong at Davos.
people think about our current.
I did pull it from Swan BTC, but I edited it. I took out all the pauses and all the uns, right? So that way it would go a little bit quicker. This was like a 5-minute video or a 5-minute segment that I cut down to 3. It's a lot of talking, but all of it is super important.
Financial system as kind of sacrosanct, and it's the only way to do it. But if you study the history of money, really it's got created in like 1971 when Nixon went off the gold standard in the US, and we currently have the system where most central banks don't have any link to a hard commodity underneath. I think fiat currencies are going to.
That's literally the only thing that's backing central bank currencies that aren't tethered to gold or any other hard asset is trust. It's trust in the government. And that's what makes the money work. Once that trust falls apart, then the money is useless. So I brought up Iran because it's funny. He does start to go through a list of countries right now that have super high inflation, and Iran wasn't one of them. And like right now, I think Iranian money, you need like 1.5 million just to equal $1 US. Like, that's literal wheelbarrow buckets full of cash to buy a dozen of eggs type of inflation, right? If those people would have foreseen this coming and purchased Bitcoin, and let me be frank here, it doesn't matter at what price, right? It doesn't matter if they bought it at 120K. If they would have taken before the Iran currency broke down, if they would have went and just purchased as much as they could of Bitcoin, maybe not even all their money, just some of their money, they would not be as broke today as they are if they only lived paycheck to paycheck, which is how most Americans live. The majority of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. So the only trust is literally the only thing that is keeping all of the world currencies working, right? You get rid of that trust and they are useless as toilet paper. Well, they are even useless as toilet paper because they're rough.
Continue to exist for a long time, but we're also seeing the birth of a new monetary system that I would call the Bitcoin standard instead of the gold standard. And in the crypto space, that is a return to, sound money and something that is inflation resistant, because democracies around the world, once we came off the gold standard, are struggling to balance their budget. They're all running deficits, and it's caused inflation.
Think about that. They are all running deficits. Nobody can print more Bitcoin, so Bitcoin can't be inflated. The only way your government can run a deficit is if they inflate away your savings. That's how they do it. You have your money in their banks. Their banks are controlled by central banks, and your governments, and I can say right now from what I see across most of the world, most people, working class people, are not happy with their government because their government spends recklessly because they're not spending their money. They're spending your money. So they have no problem spending it. And also, a lot of government officials and politicians go into office and they make lots of money, right? They get money from who knows how. Obviously, it's not legal, but they still do it, and none of them has any repercussions ever. Like, there are a few, and I'm not going to call any by name, but you all know them. There are literal freaking accounts made on Twitter that track these corrupt politicians, have all gotten rich, right? They aren't worried about the price of eggs because they have millions. And they own hard assets like stocks and things like that. So they're rich, they're good. They make decisions with your money. That's their power. That's why they don't want to lose it. That's what Bitcoin threatens.
Inflation in fiat currencies. And so there is a real segment of the population that is looking for a new system based on hard money.
Right.
Governor, you have to address this.
We don't want our savings inflated away just so that way you guys can go spend it on stupid stuff that doesn't benefit me even a little bit. That's why Bitcoin is at $90,000 a coin. Think about that for 1 second. Just let that sink in, please. I am on a soapbox rant, but this is so important. $98,000 Bitcoin just 20 years ago. It's not even 20 years old. 15 years ago was trading at $5, $10. Then it went up. It blew up. It went from $150 a Bitcoin to $1,000. Then it went up to $2,000, $3,000, $8,000, $10,000. Now it's at $90,000 a Bitcoin. Hello, 200 to 400 million people own Bitcoin. There are 8 billion people on planet Earth that are getting more and more and more frustrated with their government. Is any of your government spending less money? No? Okay, then what are they going to do in the future? If they are spending more money, what do they have to do? They have to inflate away your money. Okay? Bitcoin is the best thing right now that we have that is money or can be used as money. It is better than gold as long as the internet is a thing. You take the internet away, then Bitcoin is useless, right? So in a post-World War III, only 60 million people left in spot places all over the world, the ones that survived the nuclear holocaust, Bitcoin will be useless to those people. But if society continues to move the way it is moving, right? And governments keep doing what they've been doing for years and years and years, Bitcoin's value will continue to move up, because as time goes on, things aren't going to get better economically for anybody in anywhere. And if they try to make us all one giant world, like no borders, right? A nation without borders, it'll be worse because those super elite rich people that already make all the decisions will be able to basically make even more decisions, and then they'll have more resources they can plunder and loot and steal, and because they will be in control of the entire world. It will be way worse. So as far as what money is, and you're going to get to hear a central banker here in just a minute discuss to you why he thinks Bitcoin is absolute dog turd. But with what money is, as what defines money today, with current things, the internet, all that, Bitcoin is the best there is. Nobody controls it. The world has already voted on Bitcoin. If they were going to destroy Bitcoin, they would have done it a long time ago. Now they're going to try to adopt it and implement it into society. Bitcoin is going to go higher eventually in the future. As far as, is it going to go to 98K next week? I don't know. But in the future, it will be much higher than where it is now because of what it is. All we need to do is just tell people there is a better money out there than what you currently know as money. There is. You only need to remember a seed phrase, and you don't have to pack it on you. Like back in the 40s, they would put gold, as much of their jewelry on as possible when they were trying to leave the war, when they were coming to America. But America, when they got here, they would, what do you got there? How much gold do you have on you? We're going to keep track of it. This kind of stuff. Bitcoin is better than gold because you don't need anything. Just the clothes on your back. And when you get to safety, as long as you haven't forgotten your seed phrase, you have access to your money. Right? So as of right now, it could change in the future, but as of right now, Bitcoin is the best, sound, firmest, hard asset to save money with.
Is the euro in danger from a Bitcoin standard?
No, I'm a bit skeptical, Brian. Sorry to say it about this idea of the Bitcoin standard.
The Bitcoin standard. This guy reminds me of a villain in a movie. Maybe not a Bond movie villain, but like definitely crooked, evil banker vibe in a movie.
We left the gold standard
because we couldn't spend more money than we wanted to. So we leave the gold standard. So this way we spend more of your money. Ha ha.
The gold was only a technical mean. What is important is what you say, Bert, that monetary policy and money is part of sovereignty. And we live in democracies,
sovereignty.
And I think...
Okay, sovereignty is needed for society to progress. I agree. I don't think that these currencies are ever going to collapse, right? They're always, as long as these people have power, they have the power of the money and they have the power, they're not going to allow their currencies to, or try to keep their currencies as the thing. So you're always going to have government currencies, but that is their power. That's Bitcoin threatens them. It threatens everything about what they are. Think about a world where every single individual says, I will accept Bitcoin for goods and services. In that world, hypothetically speaking, you don't even need a government.
Public rule is key. And
that's hypothetically.
If we lose that,
obviously, government keeps you safe and or supposed to, and all these, positive things. And like, I'm not advocating for any bad faith stuff towards anybody's government. I'm just simply stating that Bitcoin, as of right now, is the best way to protect your purchasing power into the future.
Really, you lose a key function of democracy. That said, I always keep repeating that money, as long as it exists for centuries, has been a public-private partnership. You need a public anchor, whatever its form is. Remember, and silver and gold were sovereign assets, so it was on the public side. And then you had banknotes, and you will have CBDC. But anyway,
You
the
will
most
have
important...
CBDC. Not if we have anything to say about it. It looks like it's heading that way, but did you have any say about it in Europe? Do you think Chinese citizens had any say whether or not they were going to be tracked? Of course not. Of course not, right? You have no say over the decisions these people make. It's ridiculous. It's outdated. This guy should not be in control of anybody's future. He doesn't have much future left, so he's going to make decisions based on what's best for him, not what's best for us.
Part of payments is in the private sphere, and this is the development of tokenized private money. But this tokenized private money must be regulated to inspire trust, confidence.
It's fascinating that you say
That's
that,
it.
Brian. You
Key
mentioned
right there. Once everybody trusts Bitcoin, it's over. Like Bitcoin is moonshotting, baby.
a complementary role that you could play. Is there a complementary role in Europe when there's so much regulation and it is about the digital euro?
So
regulation.
I think that crypto is very good for fiat currencies. It's very good. Bitcoin is like good as a check and balance on deficit spending, because when there is a lack of trust, or people, from like in a U.S. context, if people are worried about inflation, or maybe in places like Argentina or Turkey or Nigeria, they are going to flee to the thing that they believe is going to store value more. So I think in general, it's going to be very complementary. And like you said, I think it comes down to trust. And so if fiat currencies can maintain trust and not have, the money printer kind of debasing everybody, then they'll survive. But if countries that, have bad behavior on that dimension, Bitcoin doesn't have a money printer. The supply is fixed and people will go to it in times of uncertainty, kind of like they did with gold.
The guarantee for trust is independence on central bank side. And we have a core mandate and we are accountable to
independence. Central bankers move in unison, and they usually let the U.S. make policy, right? Whenever the U.S. central bankers start doing something with interest rates, it seems to just go pretty much that way around the world. They're not independent. Bitcoin is more independent than a central bank could ever think about being.
But sorry to say that I trust more independent central banks with a democratic mandate than private issuers of Bitcoin. Whichever very useful.
Through the trees. Or how does that saying go? You can't see the forest for the trees, through the trees. You can't see the forest because the damn tree's in your way, bro. He's looking right up against a big fat pine tree, and all he can see are the little termites climbing up it. He can't see the rest of the forest.
Bitcoin is a decentralized protocol. There's actually no issuer of it. So that's in the sense that central banks have independence. Bitcoin is even more independent. There's no country or company or individual who controls it in the world. And so anyway, I think it's a healthy competition because if people can just
for sure was evil banker man on movie laugh for sure. It is competition. That's why he laughed. They can't break it or destroy it. So now they're going to have to move into the adopt it state. So obviously you're going to continue to hear a lot of FUD about Bitcoin, and it's going to come from the elites in the world, the most richest, the most powerful, because they don't want you owning it. They want to own it all, not you. Okay? So long term, people should put some money in Bitcoin. At least some. I would say 25% of one's wealth at this point, with all the chaos going on, since China's planning for war. They have a wartime economy right now. They're building the world's largest fleet. Some of your money should be in Bitcoin. The price doesn't matter, right? Obviously, it will if you go in leveraged long with everything you got, then it will matter. But if you're buying, $20 a week or $1 a day or $100 a week or whatever, over time, right? It will go up. It's almost like Bitcoin is a 401k, and it pretty much will like add with you because of how it's built and how it works. Now, obviously, if you feel like I'm completely batshit crazy and none of this is going to play out and Bitcoin's going to zero, well, then buy gold, I guess, right? But gold is the old system. The new system is the internet. They're trying to create an internet overlord right now, right? So the only way the internet goes bye-bye is if electricity goes bye-bye. And if the electricity goes bye-bye, then obviously Bitcoin no good. But so also in that world, I have a hard time feeling like gold will be good either. You know what I mean? Like it will be good to some people that are using gold to build things or whatnot. But yeah, as long as futuristic society, is working on a pretty even keel, which I would say that it is now, and it will progress into the future as well. Things are going to change. Industries are going to die. Industries died back then. Back then, when you had a man that built his whole life savings up into a horse and buggy carriage company, obviously couldn't see that into the future a car was going to be invented and put him completely out of business. That's where Bitcoin is now. Like people have a hard time seeing for what it is potentially going to be in the future. AI, think about it. Everything is heading toward a more digital future. So digital currency will be the future. As long as Bitcoin doesn't get 50% attacked or hacked or, all of that stuff, it will be here. It's already here. It's been here for a long time. It's not going anywhere. It is very volatile for now, but we can even see that volatility is being compressed. Every year that goes by, Bitcoin's volatility just gets more and more and more compressed because more and more and more money is coming into it. Once Bitcoin has trillions of dollars in it, it barely moves, right? It just slowly goes up.
Decide which one they trust more. And I think it's actually the greatest accountability mechanism on deficit spending.
I agree 100%. That's like, this man knows what he's talking about. Absolutely. Well, that'd be our JPY short starting to work out a little bit now. It might work out a little bit later on, but yeah, Bitcoin's still chopping inside of yesterday's range, still not doing anything. We're getting close to about the end of the session, and you're a big doji on the day. You did not get even to yesterday's low. It might do that later today, but as of right now, it doesn't look like it is. It's actually closer to taking out yesterday's high at this point. Yeah, I think every individual on the planet should own a little bit of Bitcoin for sure. I'm getting more and more maximalistic when it comes to Bitcoin because of what I keep seeing happening across the world. Now, with that being said, hopefully Trump can steer the ship in the right direction to where there is no war, right? Hopefully he can be the leader of the world, because obviously other countries don't like what he's doing. You've got Americans that don't like what he's doing, but clearly he's making some right decisions, and hopefully the next guy can do the same. Unfortunately, that's just the way it is. And with that much chaos and volatility in the US political system, knowing that some far lunatic, whether it's far right or far left, just lunatic on both edges of the volatility spectrum, any one of those people get in, they could change everything for the worse. And in that scenario, I would like to be able to move freely from one place to another and not have to carry a lot of stuff with me to keep track of that value. And right now, unfortunately, Bitcoin is the best there is. It literally is the best. So until that ceases to be the truth, I think Bitcoin, you have to invest in it. And I think because of that, that does ultimately make Bitcoin see much higher prices in the future. Like the same way that when Bitcoin topped out at $15 a piece, right? Everybody thought it was done, it was dead, it was gone. Just like every single swing high that you ever thought was going to be the last one, it made new ones. And the reason for that is because of how fundamentally sound it is as a potential money for the future. It's just do some research as much as you want, but you definitely don't want to be left behind. Things are changing, and they're changing at a rapid pace. I think Bitcoin goes way higher in the future. All right, Clean Spark, SCL. What is that? CLSK. I like Bitcoin better than any miner or than any treasury company, better than anything else out there, first and foremost. But I understand why people invest in things like this. They want more volatility than what Bitcoin offers. So they invest in these cheap stocks, hoping that one day they are super expensive. It looks okay right here, right now. It does look like it is forming a longer term support zone at about $7. Obviously, I think as long as this company makes money, I don't know if they make money or not. When you're investing in a company, even if they do mine Bitcoin, if they're doing that at a loss, I don't see how, like, yeah, their value could go up because Bitcoin's going up. But other than that, it's not really a good, in my opinion, foundational like thing that you should invest in long term. If you're just trading it, yeah, it's cheap. It's moving. It looks good here. Let's go look at it on the monthly real quick. Yeah, it's trading inside December's range the same way Bitcoin is. So that's good. At least you're not making fresh month lows, or at least fresh 2-month lows. In fact, you are trading up off the high. Now you are going to potentially see resistance here and here. Those are the two near-term areas where sellers will most likely look to get involved. But it does look good here on the daily. If it can continue making higher lows, I would anticipate higher highs on the near term. It looks okay. Technically speaking, let's see where the EMA is. It's holding it. That's a good sign. And as of right now, the bulls are more in control of the daily momentum than the bears are. So that's a good sign. You have good signs on it. It must continue to do that, right? It is also on the daily here. It's potentially getting ready for a run. Yeah, this looks very constructive, but I would have thought that back here as well. And like I said, I mean, that Bitcoin looks like that too. So it does look good. It does look good. It looks good for a run. It really does. So I would argue that if it could stay above 1160, moving on, you could be positioned for longs on this. I would mitigate my risk or put my stop out around that price, right? If you start to make lower weekly lows, then I would probably be waiting for this price to get back in. But as long as it's not making lower weekly lows, I think it could make a run here. It looks good technically, and it has a really good looking structure. Can it get some momentum? If Bitcoin could get some bullish momentum, I think this could be a good trade. But Bitcoin must get that bullish momentum. Otherwise, this is just going to fall over like MicroStrategy and all other miners slash treasury companies. And I think Bitcoin's just better. Like, I know these things are cheap, but instead of, buying 10 shares of CleanSpark, you could take that same amount of money and just invest it into Bitcoin instead. I think that would just be better. But yeah, looks good. Looks good here. What are your thoughts on HGraph? Oh, that's a 5 ticker symbol. 5 letters is not usually something I ever want to own. But we'll see what it is. It's over the counter. Hydrograph Clean Power Inc. So if this is the same company, that, like, if it's always had the same ticker, it looks good. It's a very constructive chart. It's extremely cheap. And since it isn't trading above $5, you can't really see many, like, money managers get involved with this, like investment banks and stuff like that. They're not in this. This right now is early investors and, like, people that invest before the company's publicly traded. They're not taking profits yet. So that's a good sign. So if they're not selling out, then obviously they have anticipations of this doing much better in the future. I don't know what they are. I've never heard of them. So I'm not quite sure what they do for a living. It's clean power. Maybe it's a play on that. It could be a company that's trying to do a new sort of fusion or something. I don't know. But the chart looks really good. And since it's such a low cap stock, I could spend a couple $100 on it just to give it a shot. You know what I mean? So, like, I could buy 100 shares of this just to kind of put back in the portfolio and look back on it 10 years from now and see what it did, right? Like something like that. But I wouldn't put any leverage on it or a very big position. I wouldn't bet all my... I wouldn't put all my eggs in this basket, but as of right now, it's a very constructive looking chart. It looks like it's getting ready to go on a run. Now, it's in the resistance, same as the CleanSpark was. You've got a prior month swing high up there. People will be looking to sell it, but I mean, this chart looks good. I don't even really care about the price. Just looking at the chart, it looks really good. And it looks like it's trying to make a run right now. So yeah. Resistance it's into. So you'd be hard pressed to get me to buy it up here. I would probably be more prone into looking for a pullback to about like $1.93. I could justify that better than, buying shares at 277. But it looks pretty good and constructive. There's no point for me to put any moving averages or anything on this. It looks good. It looks like it's getting ready to do a breakout. Can it break out? We'll see. It did here. Right? Oh, it could see another sizable move like that. I just don't like that it's got 5 letters in the symbol and that it's OTC. If they do really good, maybe another couple rounds of funding or something like that, or a gigantic breakthrough in their technology would be phenomenal for even a 277 bid, to be honest with you. I would have to do more due diligence and find out exactly what they're working on and, find out about, what kind of future that might have. But yeah, it looks good. The chart looks good. Looks really good. Hey, did you look at Netflix these days? The last time I looked at Netflix was last week, and it was getting pretty messed up. But that's because they did a split, a reverse split, and they're also kind of in the news lately because they're trying to consume Warner Brothers. Like, soon Netflix, I mean, they already pretty much are the biggest entertainment company out there. and they have no problem spending money. I think their Witcher series that nobody gave a shit about for the last 2 seasons was costing like an insane amount of money to put together. So if they're just willing to throw a few $100 million per season on an episode of something that nobody really likes, then obviously they got money, right? I think Netflix is a good buy long term because of the way the companies ran. And I mean that on like the top level. So the guy that basically built it into what it is and his board, if you will, they make decent decisions. I think this pullback is just that, a pullback. I think eventually it will be bought up. I don't know at what price that will be. But yeah, anytime Netflix has a multi-month correction, you should definitely be starting to think about participating. This correction that it's been seeing has not been as volatile or as violent as the last one was. So maybe it's not done yet, but every month you get a new opportunity to see if this will be the month that it stops or not, right? So keep Netflix on watch here because it has pulled back for the last 4 months, and watch 81.93. If price literally refuses to trade under that for more than a couple weeks, then 81.93 is a potential good investment on the near term. That deal, I don't know if it got worked over or if they're still working on it, but that's just going to give them more power. And I mean, it's at some point you're going to have to talk monopoly. You know what I mean? Like if it keeps expanding. Right now there are several platforms that compete, but they don't really compete, if you get my drift. Like Paramount Plus just put on the UFC, so that could do good if that could be like some worldwide thing. Just being in the US, Paramount Plus watchers get to watch UFC bouts now without pay-per-view. That's a good thing. I know there are tons of UFC fans. That could bring more viewers to Paramount, but eventually, once cable TV is dead, and it will be dead because everybody hates commercials, and especially how many you have to sit through just to watch a football game, eventually cable TV will be probably dead, and it will be streamer services, but they're all going towards that whole pay more to get away from commercials thing. So like with Prime, people go to those services because of no commercials. So we still yet have to see how people respond to this, but more and more companies are going towards that commercial style TV. For the larger, like Netflix, that will be good because basically you will be charged a certain amount a month, premium every month to get Netflix. And if it's the lowest form of membership fees that you pay, then you're going to have to watch commercials. They're already starting to do it. So they are going to do it. And then they'll offer more premium subscriptions to get away from commercials. So they'll be able to basically make more money by upcharging clients to get away from the commercials. And then the people that choose to go the cheap route and watch the commercials, they will have an advertising revenue stream as well. I don't see Netflix going anywhere long term. I see Netflix just moving higher. Now, as far as that goes, their PE ratio, I think, is a little high still, but they're a tech company. I mean, this stock has split a few times now. So early investors pre-2015 in Netflix have gotten rich, if you know what I mean. They have gotten filthy rich. Could this company keep doing that? In theory, I mean, the sky's the limit, right? They've got other competition now. Paramount Plus, Disney Plus, HBO. Well, they just bought HBO. Didn't Netflix just buy HBO? Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good company to own long term. And especially when it has corrective months like it's been having. So maybe don't go balls deep with all kinds of leverage, but for a long-term investment, definitely start picking up some shares. $86 is cheap now because of the split, but I mean, the last time it split, it ran all the way back up to 1,000 again. Think about that. Back here, back in 2022, I was telling people to pick it up at $250 a share. If you would have done that, you would have more than 4x your money, and now you would own a lot more shares. So it's a good company to buy. It trends up, and it trends up huge. Like, huge. This is a significant pullback. It's not as brutal as the last one, but it's a significant pullback, 38%. I think once you get below 50, if you get below 50, you definitely got to start buying it. And like I said, there is a future for Netflix. It's commercials. It literally is. It is the way they are going. They will print money. They will print money. It's as long as they can keep their operating expenses under wraps and other things, right? They can't just go out there and start just throwing money around like they own the place. They have to be able to continue to make money and keep their investors happy. And there is a way forward for Netflix to do so. So you just got to ask yourself, how much do you need it to pull back before you start to get involved in it? Long term, it's a great looking stock. It's giving you an opportunity to get involved with it right now. Every year there is a mega trade. I don't know, like a lot of people think that 2026 is going to be a very sideways, choppy year. I don't know if they're right or not. I know when things pull back, you got to buy them. Tech right now is struggling. Apple's struggling a little bit. Microsoft has been struggling for a while as well. Looks like it's starting to trade well off of those lows. So now we can break this down. Yeah, it's still real volatile. It's making that move this week. It's still going to be under threat of being sold at 480, but 438 will be a price to watch in the future to see if this is going to be a low or not. It looks like it's having a really good day today. This is all going to be good. Nvidia is also up over 1%. Struggling here. Nvidia got really big really quick. I could see Nvidia coming off a little bit more. There is a new technology that's being discussed right now about, I won't be able to find that video. I saw a video on YouTube the other day talking about a new technology coming out that's basically going to make the way TSM makes these chips better. So like they're going to be able to get more compute on them. So obviously I think Nvidia will, as long as they can continue to compete, which I don't think there's anybody like Nvidia, not as good as Nvidia, but yeah. So basically all of these tech companies are going to be potentially good investments. I like Netflix real good because even though they're traded like a tech company, they do own their space. Like Apple TV is not going to be able to compete and stuff like that. So Netflix, good. when it comes to like Apple, Microsoft, Nvidia, and Google, I think Google probably has the best leg up because Google isn't just, right? They don't just do one thing. They do a lot of things. Like Google has they have a whole big pie and a lot of slices and a lot of different stuff. Google is the tech leader, if you will. So if you get a nice pullback on Google, you should definitely buy it. We were talking about it back here. That says bull trap, but it didn't last very long. We were watching it right at the yearly open. Once it got above it through here, we liked it a lot. Unfortunately, I didn't buy any more on this correction. I already own it, so I just didn't get in anymore. This right here, this move speaks volumes in the fact that Google is the tech leader. So if you don't want to invest in all the tech companies, I would definitely get in on Netflix, a little bit in on Tesla when Tesla has a correction. Netflix is having that correction. Tesla and Google are my top 3. Apple, if they get their stuff together, obviously they can still make money in the future because they also do a lot of things, but your tech leader will be Google, and in the tech or in the chip space, obviously Nvidia. But there could be a new player coming up soon in that arena. We'll see. But I did see a video the other day where there is a breakthrough in that technology. So TSMC might have competition in the future. And we'll see how that plays out. I mean, obviously, if I was the person that ran TSMC, I would be all over that new tech, trying to absorb that small company into my company, right? So that way I own that portfolio as well, but we'll see how it plays out in the future. Yeah, Google needs a correction before I can get more involved. I should have got more involved back there, obviously. Hindsight's always 2020. Tesla is trying to break out here. So I'd like to see a deeper correction on Tesla or a long-term bottom built, like a long-term sideways consolidation that we are currently getting, but a little bit longer. Currently, we're in a 4-month range. I'd like to see Tesla hold a range a lot longer or a little bit longer, and then I'd be trying to get in on some of these lows because they're also working on somebody thinks that, not somebody, a lot of somebodies thinks that Tesla is going to absorb SpaceX. So instead of IPOing SpaceX, they're going to like put it into Tesla. So Tesla could break out soon based on that news. All right. If they do that, if SpaceX becomes a branch of Tesla, then the only way to get involved in owning SpaceX shares will be to buy Tesla shares. I think a lot of that is already priced in to this chart, obviously, but news like that has the potential to drive another large breakout. So some companies are actually positioned good for 2026 and some are not. Like I think Netflix positioned real good for 2026. Google, I think, needs a correction or a little bit. Meta, they don't seem to be losing any ground market-wise. Yeah, I mean, some of these things just look crazy, but I think my top 3 are going to be Tesla, Netflix, and Google long-term. Apple, just because it's a cell phone company also. But Apple needs to have a breakthrough. Apple needs something new. I mean, they have a large fan base and they will always be able to make money, right? Subscription services and this and that. But I think Apple could really use a big win, like something, AI or something. They rolled out their whole AI thing and they did it during the Super Bowl, but that was a year ago, right? And then they kind of backed off on it. Like, but their stock's still doing good. So you definitely need to buy these things when they pull back if you want them in your long-term portfolios. World War III isn't happening. They are on alien invasion script. I saw that too. Yeah, I think I posted it in a Discord. Let me look real quick. There was an article about that crap. Doopity-doo, boop, boop. Oh, it's probably so far back I'll never be able to find it. Oh, I put it in the meme thing, didn't I? Yeah, right here. The Bank of England urged to plan for financial crisis triggered by an official announcement confirming the existence of aliens and put contingencies in place to prevent collapse. I mean, think about that for a second. Anybody that talked about aliens back in the 90s was a conspiracy theorist. Now it's like, because of YouTube and other platforms, it's pretty much just everywhere. People seeing so many aliens. I watch several YouTube channels that shows the new alien footage or new UFO footage. I don't know what this is, but I mean, come on. It's funny. It definitely is funny. Yeah, good stuff, man. Aliens are coming. It's just a matter of time. All right, check this. GPY is rejecting last year high, closed bullish, weekly candle below last year high. If now we close daily candle below this weekly open, then probably yearly high is set. You need, and I'm saying this, you need BOJ intervention or just the market to roll over. Otherwise, that ain't going to be a high. You know what I mean? So keep an eye on bond yields. 30-year bond yields are going to be super important. They are pulling back a little bit, but you're going to need intervention almost to roll USD JPY over. And this continuing will spark intervention most likely. So keep an eye on this. I think it's early, but we'll see. It could be in. The yearly low could be in. You're starting to see a nice move now. There it is. So, yeah, it looks like those sellers did take that trade. Too bad they didn't take the trades that I took today. Bastards. Yeah, I want to see more of this. You're into support. I can't short into support. You can, I can't. My rules will not allow it. It's into support here. And your yearly low that you're talking about is the high where BOJ intervened. So, yeah, it is potentially possible that you get intervention. You can short it just because of that, though, for sure. Like, it is rejecting last year's high. And as long as that continues to be the case, you can look for shorts. The problem is where does support end up being? So it's tightening up. It's getting tight up here. It will be interesting to see how it plays out. We start closing consistent days under the 21 exponential, and I'll short it right there with you. I think we'll see like a big volatile move if the BOJ does intervene. because they'll probably go in with billions. It won't be small, right? They'll intervene huge. And in that scenario, I would love to be in a USD JPY short. I'm not against shorting it. It's just not right here. I could have taken it earlier this morning. I was even thinking about putting it out there, but I didn't because I just didn't love the volatility based on nothing. There wasn't really anything said in that meeting. It didn't seem like it should have been that volatile, but so I want to see what it does moving on, like going forward. And then we'll start talking about it. Apple toilet, ice shitter. Yeah, something. They need a new invention, bro. They need something. Cause like, yeah, I mean, the way things are going with money and everything, I mean, Apple's gonna have to charge like $8,000 a cell phone just to make money in the future. People wouldn't give a shit when they admit aliens exist. I don't know, man. You got a lot of people out there that think that people that talk about aliens are just, lunatic fringe conspiracy theorists. If you had the same YouTube algorithm that I have, then you will see aliens every day. So you would not give a shit about an alien invasion, right? I mean, they're already here with my YouTube feed here. I bet I could find one real quick. Oh, I was about to say there's an alien right there, but wasn't an alien. First footage of NASA's new alien spaceship. Let's see here. Here we go. They're not human. There's aliens right there. I told you didn't have to go far on my YouTube to see aliens. Looks like this guy might even be talking about underwater aliens. Like, we're not even going to be invaded by upstairs aliens. It's going to be aliens coming from underneath the ocean too. Crazy stuff, man. Crazy stuff. Yeah, I'm not worried about aliens. Not too worried about it. I think the tech probably already exists. I think a lot of our tech probably comes from alien tech. I mean, if you look at history or are a proponent of history, you will see there is a massive expansion from like the 40s to now of technology. I can remember when I was a little kid, the day my father put a telephone in the house. All right. I'm not 90. I'm not as young as I used to be, but I mean, I'm getting closer to middle age, but still, like, I can remember the day that my dad brought in a telephone into the house. It was also around the same time he bought a VCR on our little 17-inch color push-button TV. And then you look at where we are now. Like, my generation grew up. We got to witness the birth of cell phones, beepers, the internet, 1990s. Like, the internet took off and started to get real popular. Windows 94 came out, dial-up internet. Everything. This curve has just went insanely crazy. The tech that we've seen happen in the last 50 years is crazy. So you can make the argument that new tech spawns new tech, though. Like, I'm just joking when I talk about aliens. I believe in Jesus, and the Bible doesn't say anything about aliens. I mean, there might be some Old Testament stuff where you could loosely fit an alien translation in it, I guess. Or Jesus might be an alien himself, right? I believe in intelligent design. Obviously, I believe in Jesus. So maybe that's the aliens that's coming. I don't know, man. I don't know. It's crazy. Little green guys, I mean, it's possible. Space is huge. I'm right there in the middle. I believe in Jesus, but I also believe in the 9 planets. Well, it used to be 8. Now they're talking like there is the 9th out there. We lost Pluto, but we're going to get a new one. I know space is broad. So I guess anything is possible. Yeah. Crazy stuff, man. This timeline is definitely screwed up. I'm starting to feel more and more like that is something that happened. Yeah, CERN, when they did that science experiment in 2008, that's when the timeline got screwed up. Boom. Because things made sense before then. They don't really anymore. Yeah, we can go down a real big rabbit hole. Crazy stuff, man. You overlooked a question I had in live chat. Would be really cool if you still had time to go over it real quick. Alex, let me scroll up, buddy. Didn't see it. I have a bad habit of doing that. I'm looking. I had a couple of girlfriends. That's not what you're talking about. Obviously, your question had to be before that. Or you could just retype it. Oh, there it is. I heard you say multiple times that you don't short unless price first sweeps the day high. And then you don't go long unless... Well, I don't always do that. So, okay. So like, for instance, here on USDJPY, because it's bullish, right? Sometimes I will get short when the asset is bullish and things like that. But that's literally going off strategy. You're more or less looking for exhaustion. If that's the trade idea, then yeah, I definitely don't want to get involved until we take out that prior day high, or if we get up to it and fail. Now that's not going to spur on a trade always, right? So like, if a daily range is taking out a prior day's high or low, that's not always going to be a trade. If you try to do that, you're going to get stopped out a lot. All right? But yes, if I'm looking for a reversal, then that's just the best place to put the position on, right? That's why. So like, for instance, if today we were looking for the short on USDJPY, the best trade might not have been to look for the short at the open of the day because it was already so close to yesterday's low. So the best short trade would have been up here. Now, sometimes you're not going to go up there. So sometimes you are going to have to put that short on at the prior day's close, because you won't make it up to that high. But yes, if I am looking for a short on the top, or what I presume to be the top or close to the top, or at least for that day, then yes, that is the best place to put the trade on. Would you have been able to get it? I don't know. That's why this morning, this move already happened, right? So when we started the live stream, I said, if you want to look for shorts on USDJPY, the best place would be here. It's an area to mitigate risk. That's all. So we look for that rejection, and then we put that short on. Now, that same trade did not work on S&P 500 today. Remember? This morning when we were trading up into here, that was a fresh day high. And I said, if you're going to see a rejection, then I need to see it happen here right now. That's the only way I could put the short on. That was just anticipating a fresh day high liquidation and then a rollover. It didn't play out. It didn't work. So it's not always going to work. And I don't want you to always be looking to put shorts on at the prior day high unless you have a short bias. And then sometimes you're not even going to get there. But yeah, it is a place to watch, to put risk on, to put the trade on instead of looking at the 5-minute and trying to anticipate some random 5-minute candle being the high. So like if you look at this chart on a 5-minute chart, I guess you could have put this on here just based off the 5-minute. It was the highest swing high at that point in time. But if I'm looking at this chart, I'm thinking to myself, I would rather put it on here, right? And not down here. So what would my answer be for that? Well, it's real simple. This is just a 5-minute swing high. It isn't a 4-hour swing high. It isn't a daily swing high. It's just a random price. That's why you didn't go up there. The reason you rejected here was because this is the prior 4-hour swing high. You see what I'm saying? This right here is nothing. It means nothing. It is nothing. But if you're trading above this, you don't want to put that trade on because it could be going up there. So it just gives us this nice, pretty line in the sand, if you will. Yeah, it looks like the sellers are jumping on it. I wish we would have. That trade would have played out. All the other ones I was in today did not. All of them. Farcoin is getting upside continuation now, but still not breaking out. But I assume it probably will. If the VIX continues to trade under 16. Yeah, I think the shorts are done. At least for now. Dollar's pushing hard on lows. So we're literally getting a breakdown here on the dollar right now. So there's that downside continuation move right here. So, okay, so on this chart, damn it, that's the one I wanted to keep. Shit. Sorry, I'll get it back. On this chart, where is the best long to take if it's a long? Now, with 7 days left on the month, I wouldn't be looking to put a long on. But if it's a long, you're getting ready to trade into that price. So anybody that has a bullish DXY bias, I wouldn't. Okay. So do you guys remember when the dollar broke out? Here, let's do this real quick. Okay, so do you remember when the dollar broke out above these prior weekly swing highs right here? And I was like, well, I will have a bullish bias on the dollar just based on this fresh breakout all the way down to 98.47. But longer term, this is just a breakout above a prior weekly swing high. Given the monthly chart, it still hasn't done anything. So if it rejects December's open, I would be a bear there. Do you remember me saying that weeks ago? 2 weeks ago, in fact. I want you to look right here at December's open and how this is playing out. So because this is playing out, would not be a buyer on the dollar. I was a seller on the dollar as long as the dollar was trading under December's open and up to, and even just higher than the high. If it would have gotten above the high, I would have put the sell trade on. If it would have rejected that and traded lower, then I would have fired off that sell. But I wouldn't love it. This is like a perfect trade. You don't get any better than just shorting the December open. That's what we did on the Euro Sunday. That is the trade we put on. We bought the euro dollar because we have a bullish or a bearish bias on the dollar. We knew we were testing the dollar's December open, but euro was also testing support. So here, as it traded down into support, we wanted to be a buyer there. That's how we shorted the dollar, by getting long euro. So now that the dollar is trading down there, it isn't the best place to look for a long for me. But if people have a long dollar bias, this will be the best place to look for longs. One of these two prices. I wouldn't even be willing to buy the dollar if it rejects going lower, because it's heading in the directional bias that I have for the dollar. The macro supports a weaker dollar. So we had a bearish bias all the way through here, but our short side trade did not work. So as I basically said, as long as it's trading under December's open, I will still have a bearish bias. Just because it broke out above that week swing high, that means the short side trade for this week didn't work, but the overall short dollar trade still might work at December's open. And that's exactly where it worked. Since I can't trade the dollar, I had to trade Euro USD. It's just an inverse position of the dollar. So yeah, it's working out. But if we get a dollar breakdown, a larger dollar breakdown here, it's got to break down under this is the most important low. If you lose this low right here, the dollar could see 2 or 3 months of downside continuation. That could be nasty. This is a long-term range here. I definitely would not be looking for counter trend trades at this point. Like, I would be looking for breakdown. It tried to resolve this range. It took so long to get here. This is where we had a short side bias originally. But when we lost this right here, it didn't work. It traded all the way back up here, liquidated the top side of that range. Now it's working its way back down, but it's been very slow. Very slow, but still, that's the trend. That's the direction of the trend. So when it refused to go lower than October's open, this was the next best place to look for shorts. Because if you take this high out and continue, then something else is going on. But those are going to be like really good places to look for trades. Really good places on every asset once you've identified trend. So don't focus so much on individual days, like every day open, high, low, and close. If it fits your overall bias, then yes. Your overall bias. Right now, my Bitcoin bias overall is long. So it's really hard for me to look for long trades here, right? So where's the best place to look for those long trades? Well, not this month, but next month. Where's the best place to look for longs? The year open and the monthly low. If it rejects that, then I would be long. And that's counter trend. That is definitely counter trend. When we lost December's high, when we broke out above it, I loved it for the upside bias. Now that we've lost it, you have to be a seller. You just have to be a seller. But my overall bias is up. So I probably would be looking for a long back down here on another retest. We just did that the other day, though. Literally just tested it the other day. So we'll see if it holds. I hope it holds. But we'll see. Yeah. Short sellers will sell there. They may be right. I don't know. But I mean, you couldn't make another fresh day low. So dollar breaking down. I like Bitcoin to go up, but the dollar breakdown has been causing risk off every now and then. But it's getting some steam now. So USD JPY does look good. Oh, that's so brutal. It was such a beautiful, easy trade to take, too. This is what I wanted XMR to do. And ZEC. And they're doing the opposite of that. They're breaking back out to the upside. Wrong way. It's the wrong way. So I wouldn't have a short side bias on this anymore. But hopefully you get what I'm saying. Try to take the longer term analysis and apply it in that direction. And use the last 3 months for your directional bias. Right? If the last 2 months have been trending down, making lower highs and lower lows, then you would be looking for short positions at the prior month high or close or open, right? Somewhere in there. That's where you would be anticipating a rejection to take place. So right now, sellers are obviously up at December's high, and they will, on Bitcoin, they will stay there as long as Bitcoin refuses to trade back above it. But on the near term, you could argue that December's open could be resistance. You did liquidate the high, so if it is going to roll over, you would anticipate that happening now, right? But it's Friday. First trade didn't work, so I wouldn't be like so willing to throw a secondary short position on Bitcoin right here, but just because it's a daily, it just happens to be at the monthly open. The long term, if February is a breakdown month, you definitely want to see this hold as resistance. If aliens exist and they have tech to come visit us, they are not commies and don't want anything to do with most of the world. I agree. If aliens are real and they're coming to visit us, we're their pets, or they made us and they just want to see how things are going, or they're coming to destroy us, right? Which is a lot of the way, it's a lot, like now a lot of people on that whole conspiracy theory. Now that I even starting to see some of those people say, well, if we see aliens now, it's just the government. They're the ones in the alien spaceships, and they're going to use that as the next big thing to hoard all of us cattle into, another feeding ground, if you will. I don't think aliens are real. I think that was just, I don't know. We'll see, though. There is a lot of stuff I can't explain up in the sky, but AI explains a lot of it, and so does digital effects. Same with Bigfoot. Like, it's almost easier for me to say I could see Bigfoot existing, but you forget, like I did spend, or you don't forget, you don't know. I spent a lot of time in the woods, especially in the Appalachian Mountains, hunting deer and squirrel and duck, like literally everything that you can eat that tastes good, I've hunted. I mean, I've spent hundreds of hours in tree stands and I've never seen a Bigfoot. But here's the thing. I've never seen a real live bear either. And I know they exist. You know what I mean? So, yeah. It's one of those things where you see a whole lot of evidence that supports it as long as people aren't curve fitting that evidence. Like bear claws, when I see a big foot in the sand or in the ice or the snow, if there's no claws on the edge of those toes, then it's hard to say that's a bear's footprint, right? Even if it is a double bear footprint. It don't make sense. It looks like a big human. Bears don't have human feet either. Now, here's my other question. Did the guy that took that picture or make that video make that footprint? You know what I'm saying? That's probably the most likely thing. I've never seen a Bigfoot, and science doesn't have a Bigfoot body. Therefore, Bigfoot does not exist. Somebody in the world at some point would have come across a dead Bigfoot body. Or you take a redneck hunter in the woods of Appalachian, knows his one true claim to fame is to put a 30-06 bullet right through Bigfoot's skull and then call the news. Where is it? Why hasn't no one killed a Bigfoot yet? Like, it seems like, especially with 8 billion people on the planet now, one of them would have come across or caused a Bigfoot body. Whether they hit it with a car or a semi or a bullet or something, somebody by now would have killed a Bigfoot. We've literally killed everything else on the planet. Why hasn't that happened? So I can play along, but obviously I think it's all made up bullshit in the long run. Same with aliens. Until I shake an alien's hand, I'm not going to believe aliens exist. I just can't. It don't fit reality. But like I said, if the timeline's broken on this new reality, maybe aliens are a thing here. We'll see. DXY looks like it's testing monthly morning star. I think the DXY is going to break down. But yeah, if you're looking for longs, it's getting ready to be at support. And that's all you can say. At the base, maybe a good long. Could be. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see if it holds, but I think it's going to. I think it looks like it wants to break out, man. This is a pretty significant move here on the USD/JPY. So I don't know if something happened or if there's news spawning this on, but you're seeing that move also take place in the dollar. So you'd be hard pressed to get me to sell Bitcoin right here at December's open with the dollar breaking down pretty heavily like it is right now. Like, this turned out to be a phenomenal trade. That's the biggest downside 4-hour expansion we've seen in a long time on this asset. That could get bought up, but I mean, I wouldn't buy this much downside momentum. This looks like a legit breakdown here. The dollar is going to have to push through its monthly support and break down out of that stuff, and then we will have a bearish bias on the dollar moving forward. I mean, we've had it, but this is where it needs to break down from. It's got to smoke last month's low and keep going. And there's still plenty of days. There's 7 days left on this candle, so next week might be a decent short position on the dollar if the dollar plans on closing below monthly support here in this area right here. So we might be able to catch a short side trade or a short side setup on DXY next week. I'm just not going to jump on it today, especially with it being here at support. Like, it's taking it out right now. So what does that look like with USD/JPY here? Yeah, see, you're pretty much right into a potential support zone. It could break down today, but we'll see. That's a pretty significant move here. There must have been some news. I'm gonna look up, see if there's any news when I get off here. But I gotta go. I gotta get something to eat. I got other things I gotta do today also. So we're gonna wrap it up. You guys have a fantastic weekend. Make sure you guys trade safe. Make sure you trade smart. And as always, happy trading, everybody.